Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
Tonight what time? Shizuka paused for a moment and said. My mother won't let me go out if it's too late. That's why I said I wanted you to sneak out. Shiraishi has calculated the time it takes for the virtual water pump to work. Shizuka's mother definitely can't let Shizuka out during that time. Oh, that's a bit difficult. Shizuka said somewhat awkwardly. Could you tell me what it is first? If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise. Shiraishi smiled mysteriously. You'll definitely love it. This piqued Shizuka's curiosity. Okay, I'll see if I can sneak out later, actually. Sneaking out wasn't particularly rebellious for Shizuka. It's just an ordinary thing, after all. Sometimes Nobita, Giant and Sunio suddenly have something on their minds. Plus Doraemon's amazing gadgets. She has no choice but to go. Okay, it's decided then. Don't go back on your words. Shiraishi extended his little finger. What does this mean? Shizuka looked at Shiraishi with some confusion. In the back. Shiraishi almost forgot that the elementary school students in Japan seemed unaware of this. This is a way of making agreements in my hometown. We make a pinky promise, which means we have made an agreement that we cannot break. Oh, I see. Shizuka looked at Shiraishi's smiling face, blushed for some reason and then extended her little finger, hooking it with Shiraishi's. Is this okay? Sure. Baishi noddingly shook his Honda and began to mutter. Pinky promise never to change. Whoever changes is a little dog. A smile involuntarily crept onto his lips. It seems to be a reminder of happy times from childhood. This was also a spur-of-the-moment decision on his own. They're all kids, how can they not act like kids at all? Pinky promise never to change. Whoever sides with me is a dog. I was swept up in Shiraishi's emotions. Shizuka couldn't help but chuckle softly. Looking down, all right. Whoever turns into a puppy is the one who gets the title. Her face was slightly flushed, and she lowered her head because she didn't dare to look Shiraishi in the eye. Shiraishi's current appearance is truly almost otherworldly. It's a promise to see you tonight. Shizuka, you can't turn into a puppy, okay? But Shizuka is cute as a puppy, isn't she? Oh, you're the puppy, how can you praise a girl like that? Shiraishi flirted with girls on the sofa behind him. Meanwhile, Giant and Sunny are sitting in front of the TV. We're bullying Nobita's. So Nobita, you can't go diving like this, can you? Sunio behaved quite well earlier. I'm just showing you photos and videos as usual. Towards the end, he couldn't hold back anymore and started showing off again. Well, perhaps this is just human nature. What? It's just diving, I can definitely do that easily. Nobita clenched his fists in dissatisfaction. Nobita, admit you're no good, ha. Giant patted Nobita on the shoulder and laughed heartily. How could I not be able to do it? Nobita was so angry by those two's few words that he grabbed Doraemon and Shiraishi and ran away. Before leaving, Shiraishi winked at Shizuka. Shizuka lowered her head shyly. How come I never realized that my cousin Shiraishi was so mischievous? Yes, that's right, mischievous, poor little Shizuka. At this moment, only the word mischievous could describe Shiraishi. Is on my way home. Nobita was still complaining about Giant and Sunio. These two guys are really going too far. They actually said I couldn't dive. If I didn't want them to know, I would have told them right away. How awful, how awful, how awful. Doraemon followed behind Nobita, looking dejected. My dorayaki. I haven't finished eating it yet. Sunio just said I could take some with me, Doraemon. Upon hearing this, Nobita looked at Doraemon with a very resentful expression. Am I not as important as a dorayaki? His expression, she looked like she was about to cry. Hey, of course not, of course not. Doraemon waved his hands repeatedly. How could dorayaki be more important than Nobita? All right, Nobita, don't take your anger out on Doraemon. Shiraishi pressed down on Nobita's shoulder and said, "It was Giant and Sunio who bullied you. So just refute them with facts. There's no use in being impotent and furious here. Just think about the surprised expressions on Giant and Sunio's faces when you show them the photos and videos. That's what's satisfying, I understand. I'll prove them wrong with facts, I'm sorry, Doryman. I shouldn't have lost my temper with you." Nobita Nobai was energized by Shiraishi's words. Clenching his fists, he strode ahead with a proud and arrogant air. HMPH. I'm going to show Giant and Sunio that I Nobita can also take great photos and videos. Looking at Nobita's back, Shiraishi and Doryman walked together, both shaking their heads helplessly. This is Duckshung. She really does act on a whim, and her emotions change incredibly fast. Giant and Sunio are really something, even though they had already called Duckshung to come to their house. But I still couldn't help but say a few words to Nobita. While Nobita can be quite annoying at times, this is just too much. The night was bright and the stars were few. The moonlight spilled onto the ground, weaving a soft glow that was breathtakingly beautiful, as if there were a galaxy in the sky. Shiraishi got up and stretched. Next to him is Nobita. He was still sleeping very soundly just then. The wardrobe door opened and Doryman, wiping away his tears and yawning, greeted Shiraishi. Cousin Shiraishi, are already up. Yes, I'm not the only one looking forward to diving. I'm really looking forward to it too. Shiraishi put on his clothes and then forcefully woke Nobita up. Cousin Shiraishi, I had just fallen asleep. Why did you wake me up? Nobita was clearly still half asleep and had forgotten that he was supposed to go diving. He yawned, wiped away the tears from the corners of his eyes, and wanted to lie down and go back to sleep. We're going diving tonight. Aren't you going to take photos or videos? Do you want to be laughed at by Zairafu? Shiraishi's words instantly snapped Nobita out of his daze, and he sprang out of bed. That's right. The mere thought of going diving instantly energized Nobita. Where do we begin? Where do we begin? Nobita then changed into his classic yellow short-sleeved shirt and blue shorts, and looked at Shiraishi and Doryman with great interest. Let's start here, Shiraishi said. Since there's definitely water all around anyway, let's start diving right from home. However, there is one thing we must be careful about. Doryman, Nobita can't swim and I'm afraid he'll drown. Nobita quickly nodded repeatedly. Yes, I don't want to get flooded, of course, no problem. Doryman clenched his little fist, raised it high, and then shoved it into his four-dimensional magic pocket, pulling out 3 pairs of flippers. Ta-da! Flippers for people who can't swim. Also called swimming aids. Here you go, Nobita. Put this on. As long as you wear this, you won't get flooded. With that, Doryman handed 1 pair of swimming aids to Nobita and the other pair to Shiraishi. Shiraishi took it and watched Doryman and Nobita put on their swimming fins. Cousin Beishi, aren't you going to wear it? Doryman and Nobita had already taken out their glasses and were ready to put them on, preparing to enter diving mode at any moment. I won't wear it for now. I want to experience the feeling of diving first. Seeing that the two seemed a little worried, Shiraishi smiled and reassured them, don't worry. I'll always keep the swimming aids with me. If I can't hold my breath any longer, I'll put them on right away. All right. Doryman nodded reluctantly. Then his emotions gradually became agitated as he looked at Shiraishi and Nobita. I'll count down. Ready, set, 3, 2, 1. Put on your goggles and let's start diving. All 3 of them put on glasses at the same time. That instant, an endless sea appeared all around. The 3 of them seemed to be truly underwater. To outsiders, they appeared to be floating in the air. A strong feeling of weightlessness came over me. Shiraishi immediately held his breath, adjusted his body, and slowly floated up. Duckshing, even with swimming aids like fins, was too clumsy and bumped into the ceiling. Wow. Nobita covered his head on the verge of tears. Doryman, Nobita, you're so stupid, how annoying. Nobita was speechless for a moment. Then his eyes caught sight of a green button on a virtual water pump. What is this? He asked curiously as he pressed the button. Nobita, don't press it. Doryman's eyes widened. and he quickly swam towards Nobita. Shiraishi wanted to cross the water when Nobita was being impulsive. But since they were in the water, he hadn't gotten used to it yet. What used to be a two-step distance was now impossible for him to stop Nobita. And at the very moment Nobita pressed the button, buzz. The virtual water pump suddenly started operating again, sucking in all the surrounding water. The water was absorbed so quickly that it created a huge whirlpool in the room. Shiraishi, Doraemon, and Nobita were all swept up in the whirlpool and spun around in the water. Shiraishi cursed under his breath. He felt like the whole world was spinning. Help, help me. Doraemon and Nobita felt their heads buzzing. Nobita's daughter Tamako, who was waiting for Nobita to come home, heard the voices above and couldn't help but yell Nobita. It's so late, why aren't you asleep? What are you doing? Honestly, Doraemon, if I press that button, it will be back to normal, right? Nobita grabbed the bookshelf next to him, while Doraemon leaned against the desk. In other words, these things won't be affected by the virtual water. Otherwise, the whole room would be in chaos. Shiraishi forcefully used his powerful muscles and hand speed to swim against the whirlpool. Forcibly hovering in the water, he can't speak now, so he can only gesture to Doraemon with his hands and eyes. Doraemon realized what Shiraishi meant and quickly nodded. Yes, cousin Shiraishi, just press that button. Doraemon's confirmation was obtained. Shiraishi breathed a sigh of relief. He was genuinely worried that pressing the button again would trigger an even stronger level of virtual water recycling. Shiraishi did nothing else after that. Instead, he simply took off the glasses in front of his eyes. The powerful current of water suddenly disappeared, bang. But the force of the impact threw him violently backward, slamming him against the bookshelf and knocking a pile of books off, nearly burying him. This is really annoying. Baishi didn't dare to delay, so he quickly climbed out of the pile of books, walked to the virtual water pump and pressed the button. Only then did the turbulent water flow finally stop. Whoosh, 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 and Shiraishi, supporting the virtual water pump, was slightly out of breath. His strength is indeed great, but it is obviously different in water and on land. In water, you also have to face the resistance of the water, so the amount of force you can use is definitely not as much as on land. In addition, he was swimming against the current and fighting against the strong current. He was hit by a lot of water, and he got a little tired after a while. Don't underestimate the power of water flow. Although swimmers are strong and healthy, a comparison will make it clear. The world champion in the 100-meter dash has a time of 9:58 seconds. Swimming 100 meters takes about 40 seconds. This demonstrates the impact of water flow resistance on the human body. Shiraishi's few strokes far exceeded the speed of a world swimming champion. No matter how many swimming champions come, they can't swim against such a current at this moment. Doraemon and Nobita also took off their glasses, and the two collapsed to the ground, panting heavily. Hahaha, Doraemon, with his tongue hanging out, stared at the ceiling. Nobita, you really do know how to cause us trouble. I'm sorry. Nobita was too exhausted to even apologize. Carrying the water and gripping the cabinet had really worn him out. Shiraishi recovered almost immediately, and he looked speechlessly at the two guys who were slumped on the ground in front of him. You did all the work yourselves, so how come you two are exhausted and collapsed on the ground? Ding, host has acquired the skill swimming. Baishi scratched his head. Unexpectedly, by sheer chance, I acquired another skill. Host Shiraishi. Physical Constitution, Little Superman. Skills Intermediate Teaching 3500. Intermediate Mathematics 12500. Intermediate Huxia Language 1500. Elementary Swimming 56100. Special Skill Basic Telekinesis 6500. Number of draws 0. This skill, like the previous ordinary skills, has a proficiency level as soon as it is acquired, but it is not at the intermediate level. There is some basic knowledge involved. Beginner level swimming is actually equivalent to a very strong amateur level. Reaching the intermediate level means your swimming skills alone are world class. Of course, swimming is not just about swimming. It also includes any knowledge about swimming, such as diving as a little superhuman. Shiraishi is in pretty good physical condition now, and he can hold his breath for about 10 minutes at a time with ease. After gaining knowledge about diving, his diving time can probably be increased to about 12 minutes. It's a very noticeable improvement. Looking at Duxing, who was slumped on the ground, Shiraishi didn't know what to say. Although Nobita is always clumsy, but it must be said that his luck was truly exceptional. They often receive positive feedback for being clumsy. It's hard to say whether Shiraishi benefited from a misfortune or not, as he caught Nobita's good fortune, Doraemon. What was that just now? Nobita nobipenting heavily, slowly sat up from the ground and asked. That's the emergency device of the virtual water pump. With just a tap it will retract the virtual seawater, and the resulting vortex can easily sweep us all away. Doraemon couldn't help but complain again, Nobita. Don't touch anything I didn't tell you to touch. It's all thanks to my cousin Shiraishi. Otherwise it would have been a complete mess. I understand, I'm really sorry. Nobita scratched his head and lowered it in shame, Brother Shiraishi. I'm sorry for causing you trouble, it doesn't matter. Shiraishi shook his head, not caring about such trivial matters. Next, Nobita and Doraemon rested for a while, and then together with Shiraishi, they put the books scattered on the floor back onto the bookshelf. Huh, what's this? She found a piece of paper among the scattered books. Don't look. Nobita immediately snatched the book from Shiraishi's hand as if he had seen something incredible. Hiding it behind his back and smiling shyly, hahaha. Shiraishi-san, you should go and rest. Let me organize these books, after all it's all my fault. As he spoke, he pushed Beishi to sit down to the side. Shiraishi and Doraemon exchanged a glance and couldn't help but cover their mouths and laugh. He only caught a fleeting glimpse of it, but he also noticed a large 0 written in red pen. Without a doubt, it must be the test paper that Nobita hid so his mother wouldn't know. Nobita, seemingly wanting to end the lingering on the bookshelf, gathered all the books with incredible speed, then clapped his hands. All right. We can start the real diving now. The three exchanged a glance and put their glasses back on, and entered diving mode. Nobita and Doraemon excitedly swam to the window and opened it. That instant, the scene, which resembled entering the deep sea, made all three of them exclaim in surprise. The town has been completely submerged. Good. Right outside the window, as far as the eye can see, all you see is seawater. A large school of fish swam past, and you could also see many other fish of all colors and shapes scattered in various places. It felt like stepping into the real deep sea. It's so beautiful, the props are amazing. Shiraishi was completely absorbed, enjoying everything before him. Wow, that's awesome. Nobita screamed and rushed out of the house with Doraemon, starting to swim around without restraint, startled awake. Shiraishi's face broke into an excited smile. He charged forward like a cannonball, startling the fish in front of him into scattering in all directions. If Shiraishi hadn't been without his swimming fins and unable to speak underwater, he definitely would have shouted out in excitement. Marvelous! The props from the future are absolutely amazing. There were many fish in front of him, and he didn't know how many there were. But according to Beishi's rough estimate, he could already see more than a dozen kinds. The tranquil moonlight cast its glow on the serene seabed, appearing as if light has been refracted and analyzed through the spectrum, creating a breathtakingly beautiful scene. However, this so-called seabed scene is different from the real seabed. The Zisha Islands have no beaches, no corals, and no deep-sea trenches. Some are building structures. Streetlights power line set, belonging to human society. This feeling is truly amazing. This is also why Shiraishi was once again amazed by the magic of the props. No matter how many times I experience it, I will still think this way. Doraemon and Nobita were similar. The novel experience drove them crazy as they swam around non-stop. Shiraishi's legs jerked, and he leaped away with the person and the cat. At that moment, someone was passing by below. He was riding his bicycle past the streetlights when he suddenly noticed a shadow flash past his head. I looked up, but there was nothing there. There was only a strange sound, like being underwater. In an instant, all sorts of strange ideas and urban legends arose in my mind. Ah, they ghosted. I scared myself so much I almost fainted. My bicycle was on fire as I pedaled, and I ran home as fast as I could. In fact, for those who know nothing at all, Shiraishi, Doraemon, Nobita, they're practically indistinguishable from demons. Floating in the air, what else could it be but a ghost? Of course, they're not going to pay any attention to what other people think right now. They're all having a blast, Doraemon. You and Nobita continue playing. But don't forget to take pictures. I'm going to explore by myself, play is play. Shiraishi will definitely not forget his promise to Shizuka. He and Shizuka agreed to meet at 10:30. The three of them woke up around 10:10. And with some unexpected things happening afterward. It's now almost 10:30, Shizuka should already be on her way. Okay, we understand. Cousin Shiraishi, please be careful. Doraemon trusted Shiraishi much more than he trusted Nobita. He only gave Nobita a slight reminder before they were playing together again. Shiraishi smiled, took one last look at the two, and then swam toward the open space. The reason he didn't need swimming fins, but received them from Doraemon was because of Shizuka. He can hold his breath for a long time, a full 12 minutes. After landing and catching his breath, he can continue playing, so he doesn't need to. Shizuka, however, is different. Shizuka is just an ordinary girl. He can hold his breath, but Shizuka can't. These swimming fins are still very important to her. Just as Shiraishi was thinking about these things, suddenly, a violent tremor in the water made by she notice it. Just around the corner ahead, a huge white figure swiftly swept past. Wait. I think I've been forgetting something. Shiraishi frowned. White on the white island. In the afternoon, Nobita mentioned sharks, a white shark and great jaws. Shiraishi's eyes widened suddenly, and he almost couldn't hold his breath. He remembered. He remembered something he had been ignoring all along. That's a great white shark. I can't recall the exact plot of the movie, but that doesn't stop Shiraishi from remembering that Nobita and Doraemon seem to have a battle with a great white shark in the movie. In other words, the great white shark also accepts virtual seawater along with gas and is able to survive in virtual seawater. Furthermore, they were drawn here by the fish food. Damn it, Shizuka! Shiraishi's eyes widened suddenly. He quickly swam to the ground, took off his glasses, landed on the ground and ran rapidly towards the open space. Running is faster than swimming. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Shiraishi is now running much faster than Usain Bolt. The world record holder in sprinting, Bolt needs 9.58 seconds to run the 100 meters, while Shiraishi only needs 6 seconds. That's equivalent to nearly 20 meters per second. It's already comparable to the speed of a car. Moreover, his endurance is better than Bolt's. Bolt can only run 100 meters, while Shiraishi can maintain that speed for several kilometers, or even more than 10 kilometers before he starts to pant. As he ran, Shiraishi was still worried. Please, please don't let anything happen at this hour. Shizuka should be sleeping at home, but he called her out. If something happens, Shiraishi will feel guilty for the rest of his life. Damn, can it go any faster? If people knew about Shiraishi's speed, they would definitely complain, isn't this fast enough? It's already ridiculously fast at this moment. Shiraishi suddenly wished that Shizuka would be a pigeon. Staying at home, at least you're still a pigeon, not a mangled corpse. On the other side, Shizuka is a lady. I had arranged to meet with Shiraishi this afternoon. How could I possibly be a pigeon? This also means that Shiraishi has lost his mind, doing something without thinking it through properly. The women I used to hang out with were all in their early 20s, and it was perfectly normal for them to be out at 10 p.m. And Shizuka, she's just a young girl. Let her walk on the dimly lit street at 10 p.m. Even if there were no great white shark, it wouldn't work. You still need to take on the task yourself, phew. I wonder what surprise my cousin Shiraishi has for me so late at night. However, Shizuka kept thinking about this. So she wasn't too afraid, and so she reached a corner. She witnessed a scene that Shizuka would never forget for the rest of her life. A gigantic great white shark is swimming ahead. With its sharp teeth and fangs, you can almost smell the blood emanating from its mouth just by looking at it. Shizuka's face turned pale. She forcibly covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming and tried to slowly back away. Although I don't know why a great white shark would appear on the street. Now is clearly not the time to think about that. Before the great white shark spots us, the best thing to do is run away. However, fate is not always on our side. Just when we had taken a few steps back and were slowly retreating behind the howling shark to avoid facing it. The great white shark flicked its tail and nimbly turned around. Coming right up to Shizuka, roars. The great white shark was slightly taken aback at first, then roared and charged towards Shizuka with a fierce expression. Shizuka couldn't hold back any longer and turned to run away. But after running only a few steps, he tripped and fell to the ground in his panic, staring in fear at the great white shark charging towards him. Just then, a figure flashed past behind her and crashed into the great white shark. The great white shark let out a painful roar and was sent flying, crashing hard into the wall beside it. It thrashed its tail several times and thrashed about. The man then stopped and Shizuka saw his face and exclaimed, "Brother Shiraishi, are you all right, Shizuka?" Shiraishi breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, he made it in time, otherwise. If that great white shark had taken one bite, Shizuka would probably have been dead in no time. Fine. Shizuka immediately stood up, dusted off her skirt, and looked fearfully at the great white shark swimming towards them. She trembled and cried out, "Brother Shiraishi, let's run. Let's find Doraemon, you can't outrun this kid. And I can't let this big guy run rampant in this town anymore." She shook his head, staring intently at the great white shark in front of him. "I'll hold it off. You run, I have to say. This guy's sense of oppression is truly exceptional. Great white sharks can reach a length of up to 8 meters and a weight of 200 kilograms, which is more than 3 tons. The great white shark in front of us is considered extremely large among great white sharks. At least 6 or 7 meters long and weighs at least 2 tons. Nearly 3 tons at 6 or 7 meters tall, which is already the height of a 2-story building. With a flick of its tail, it seems like it could snap a tree in half. And with a forward ramming motion, it seems like it could smash through a wall. Of course, this is just a feeling. A great white shark is heavy, but that doesn't mean it can break through a concrete wall. It might smash its own head and blade, but it won't break it. For Shiraishi, however, the great white shark is definitely an extremely troublesome opponent he has encountered at this stage. Shizuka, stop looking and go find Doraemon. Shiraishi let out a breath. The great white shark seemed to sense that white stone was no easy opponent. This was a perception from a wild creature. So instead of charging forward directly, they wandered around the areas, waiting for the right moment to attack. "No, cousin Shiraishi, I can't leave you here alone." Shizuka nodded without hesitation. Shiraishi was both amused and exasperated. Although he was somewhat touched, Shizuka's presence here would only be a hindrance. Fine. Since that's the case, we can't let the great white shark attack first. If the great white shark is allowed to attack first, it will inevitably panic and fall into a passive position. Moreover, Shizuka was right next to him, so he couldn't let the great white shark get close. With the great white shark's terrifying size, a mere flick of its tail would be enough to give Shizuka a hard time. "Then you should stand here and not move. Or find a place to hide," the words fell. Shizuka hadn't spoken yet. She rushed towards the great white shark, taking 3 steps at a time. The great white shark seemed to be roaring and howling, making Baishi's eardrums ache. When it saw Baishi take the initiative to attack, it rushed up as well. Shiraishi clenched his fist and delivered a powerful punch to the great white shark's chin. Bang! The massive great white shark was punched into the air and let out a painful howl. If it were a normal great white shark, it would have been knocked senseless and its brains would have been shattered by that blow. But this is the great white shark from the Doryman world. There are all sorts of strange and wonderful creatures here. So what if the great white shark is stronger? As the great white shark was knocked into the air by a punch, it quickly swung its tail, drew an arc in the air, and turned its head to bite at the white stone. With the gaping maw so close, Shiraishi smelled the stench so foul he almost vomited. The overwhelming, indescribable fishy odor was so intense it blinded him. Damn it, you great white shark not only have physical attacks, but you also have biological attacks. By the time Shiraishi reacted, the sharp teeth were already right in front of him. Ignoring everything else, Shiraishi raised his hands, one above the other, his eyes glaring angrily, gritted his teeth and roared, forcefully holding the great white shark's mouth shut. Boom! The moment the great white shark's teeth snapped shut, Shiraishi felt his internal organs tremble and his whole body go numb and weak. Although the great white shark's bite force is not among the strongest in nature, not comparable to the terrifying bite force of large crocodiles, it mainly relies on tearing and biting to kill its opponents. But that still needs to be compared. Does being inferior to a large crocodile mean it's not good enough? This thing's bite force is at least several tons. That is a force of several thousand kilograms. Shiraishi was unleashing his full power, his muscles tensed, all concentrated in his hands. If he hadn't been wearing short sleeves, his immense strength would have easily torn his clothes apart. He held his breath, determined not to let it escape, for if he did, he would surely be bitten by a great white shark. Shiraishi didn't want half of his body to be bitten in the mouth of a great white shark. That guy's mouth was full of fishy smells. It was disgusting. If he really goes in, Shiraishi will be so disgusted that he won't be able to eat for half a year. Cousin Shiraishi, Shizuka gasped as she watched this scene, covering her mouth, tears already welling in her eyes. She wanted to go forward but knew it would be useless. No, we have to get rid of this guy. Shiraishi was already struggling to hold on, but his strength wasn't enough to shake off the great white shark. He gritted his teeth and held on, feeling a bit of a headache. I should have called Doryman over first. Unfortunately, that's impossible. If Shiraishi had gone to call Doryman, the time it would have taken for Shizuka to be eaten by the great white shark would have been enough. Fortunately, the great white shark has no intelligence. It only felt that the white stone was stuck in its teeth. The enraged great white shark swung violently, causing Shiraishi to slip from its grasp and crash heavily into the wall beside it. Bang! With a muffled thud, she landed on the ground, breathing heavily with his hands trembling slightly. The wall he just bumped into, although it didn't dent as easily as in the movies, had already developed some cracks. Fortunately, he had a strong body defense and was not injured. The hands that had been supporting the great white shark's mouth were grazed by its teeth, and instead, a corner of the great white shark's tooth was chipped off. This is why Shiraishi, despite being weaker than the great white shark, dared to confront it head-on. Roar. The great white shark roared again and angrily attacked the white stone. I'll K your damn, you think you can run into me? Shiraishi glared fiercely at the great white shark. He had no advantage in strength, nor was he strong enough to lift the several-ton shark away. Don't forget, strength is one thing, but strength and explosive power combined are what ultimately constitute the power you can unleash. Moreover, has a considerable advantage in terms of speed. Faced with the oncoming great white shark, Shiraishi quickly rolled to the side, causing the great white shark to crash into the wall behind it. Bang! The wall, which was already somewhat cracked, had a layer of plaster scraped off. The great white shark, in pain, became even more enraged. But Shiraishi wouldn't give him a chance. Seizing the opportunity, he quickly stood up and punched the great white shark in the gills on its side. PFFT! In an instant, blood splattered, and the white stone smashed the gills on the left side of the great white shark. The spurting blood stained the air. Shiraishi knew why this was. Because this big guy had absorbed the virtual seawater along with the gas. and his blood would naturally be stained with the virtual seawater as well. Even so, some of it still got on Shiraishi's hands and face. Shiraishi is quite cunning when he fights. Having succeeded with his first punch, he wanted to keep digging deeper, to tear out even more flesh and blood. But the great white shark in pains reflexively thrashed about, and Shiraishi was thrown out again, the powerful force sending him rolling several times on the ground. "I can't let you recover." The white stone rolled around on the ground a few times. Gritting his teeth and determined, I scrambled to his feet, slammed his hands and feet on the ground, and leaped more than 3 meters into the air, landing directly on the back of the great white shark. "You're out of luck today. I'm going to send you to your grave." Bangabaishi raised his fist high, displaying the imposing manner of Wusong fighting the tiger, and slammed his fists into the great white shark. Just as Wusong fought the tiger in ancient times, Baishi hammers the shark in modern times, bang bang bang. Shiraishi became enraged and began frantically pounding on the great white shark's head. Each punch could punch a huge hole in the great white shark. At first, the great white shark was in pain, and its body thrashed more violently than the bullfighting machine that Baishi played with when he was a child. But Shiraishi's determination to kill this big guy can't be stopped by this alone. In order to avoid being thrown out, he punched both fists directly into the great white shark's body, wedging them into its flesh and sticking them in place. One of the fish's gills was smashed. Breathing ability weakens. The great white shark's physical strength was also directly and drastically reduced. This struggle did not last long. It was merely a struggle before death. After a short while, the great white shark, swaying and struggling, became extremely weak. Shiraishi then delivered the final blow, smashing the other gill of the great white shark. At this moment, the great white shark completely went limp and collapsed to the ground. Shiraishi stayed on the guy's back for a while longer, just in case the thing was pretending to be dead and suddenly sprang up. He didn't care, even if this guy bit his teeth and used all his strength. He couldn't kill him, but the main concern was Shizuka. The worst thing is if this thing gets into Shizuka. That would be a disaster. Phew. This is actually a little tricky. Shiraishi jumped off the great white shark, his body covered in blood. He is only slightly tired right now. It's roughly equivalent to an average person running for a while. Nothing special. The main problem was that I was dirty. He felt sticky and uncomfortable all over. But at that very moment, a sense of crisis welled up inside me. The great white shark, which had been keeping its eyes closed, suddenly opened them and roared as it charged toward Shizuka. UB ******* D. Baishi's eyes widened in fury. Ha! It instantly rushed to the side of the great white shark. He grabbed the fin next to it, planted his feet firmly on the ground, and used the creature's momentum to forcefully change the direction of its charge to the side. Bang! The great white shark crashed headfirst into the wall. The nose in front collapsed instantly. The body twisted for a moment in the distance, and then slowly fell to the ground dead beyond any doubt. That last burst was its final, desperate attack before it died. Even if it hadn't hit the walls, it would have been completely defenseless. Now that he has suffered such a severe blow, it is only natural that he would die. Shiraishi was panting heavily. It wasn't from being tired, it was from being scared. As expected of a creature from the Doraemon world, it can still live for a while even in this state. It almost dragged someone down with it before it died. I'm a little scared now. The sudden and thrilling situation left Shizuka frozen in place. But seeing Shiraishi walking towards him, his eyes suddenly cleared and he forgot his fear. Quickly running to Shiraishi's side and asking anxiously, "Cousin Shiraishi, are you hurt? Let me see your wound. Why is there so much blood on you? What should we do?" "What should we do? Let's go find Doraemon." As she spoke, Shizuka covered her mouth and began to cry. She's currently preoccupied with Shiraishi. He didn't even consider that a 10-year-old child, not even 11 years old, could kill a great white shark with his bare hands. It was such an incredible and shocking thing. It's okay. The blood on my body is all shark blood. I don't have a single drop of my own blood. Shiraishi waved his hand dismissively, and seeing that Shizuka still wanted to come forward, he quickly took a step back. I'm fine as I am. But if you get blood on yourself, Shizuka, that would be terrible, really. Shizuka wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes and just looked at Shiraishi. Of course it's true. Baishi jumped a few times to show that he was fine and was still lively and energetic. No, I have to see it, Shizuka shook her head again. Although she is gentle, she is unwilling to back down on this issue. In her opinion, Shiraishi did this for her sake. It's just a little blood on my body, what does that count as? Can it be compared to Shiraishi's courage in facing the great white shark head-on? He wouldn't even let me touch the blood that got on Shiraishi's wound when I was examining it. Am I being too dramatic? How can you tell the difference? Baishi was somewhat troubled. I can't exactly take my clothes off and show them to Shizuka. Shizuka was willing, but he wasn't. That would be too perverted. He and Shizuka are both elementary school students. Okay. I'll go take a shower and change my clothes. Then you'll know if I'm injured or not. Shiraishi thought for a moment and then compromised. I can't really show it to you here. Right, your blood is so dirty if you get it on you. How are you going to explain it to your mother when you get home? After much thought, Shizuka realized this was the only reliable method. She reluctantly nodded, okay, but I want to come with you. Okay, let's go. Shiraishi led Shizuka across the great white shark's corpse. This is a great white shark, even though it was dead. Its massive bodying quietly on the ground could still give people an extremely intimidating sense of oppression. That's terrifying. Shizuka clung tightly to Shiraishi. If it weren't for the fact that Shiraishi was covered in blood, he wouldn't let Shizuka touch him. She had already closed her eyes and snuggled into Shiraishi's arms. The children at this time were not like the children of later generations who were tortured by the internet. In this situation, one would simply look for a relatively reliable person. Back at Nobita's house, Shiraishi told Shizuka to wait outside while he went back into the bathroom to take a shower. The water flowed over my skin, washing away the sticky blood and sensations. I wasn't hurt at all. After applying shower gel and washing thoroughly, he also rinsed the bathroom until the smell of blood was completely gone. Only then did Shiraishi put on his clothes and leave the bathroom. Shizuka was already exhausted from waiting by this time. Elementary school students had already seen quite a few movies. Shizuka's mind is now filled with the scene where Shiraishi suddenly discovers a serious wound while taking a bath, then collapses unconscious in the bathroom and quietly dies. The more she thought about it, the more frightened she became. Shizuka lifted her foot, ready to rush towards Nobita's house, *smack *a slender, fair hand patted Shizuka's shoulder, almost making her scream. Shiraishi was startled and quickly covered her mouth, leaning close to her face and whispering, "Don't shout. Shizuka, it wouldn't be good if you woke up your uncle and aunts." Zoltod. When Shizuka realized that the person in front of her was Shiraishi, she breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. Only then did Shiraishi release her. "Cousin Shiraishi, are you really all right?" After letting go, Shizuka nervously began to check on Shiraishi's condition. But after looking for a while, all she saw was Shiraishi's skin, which was even whiter and more delicate than hers. There wasn't a single wound. "Cousin Shiraishi, you really don't have a single wound." Shizuka was stunned. Despite such a fierce battle, he wasn't injured at all. Cousin Shiraishi is amazing, of course. Shiraishi clenched his fist and flexed his muscles. It's just a tiny great white shark. I can take care of it easily. His skin was fair and looked incredibly smooth. But in reality, you can tell it's very firm just by touching it. With a little effort, you can see the muscles taut. She's like a female bodybuilder, but her muscles look more natural and don't seem out of place. That's amazing, Cousin Shiraishi. Shizuka breathed a long sigh of relief. The scenes of Shiraishi fighting the great white shark just now were still echoing in her mind. She realized that Shiraishi was simply terrifying. By the way, Cousin Shiraishi, should we go find Doraemon? Oh, forget it, there's no need. Don't tell Doryman and Nobita about this. I'm afraid they'll worry, Shiraishi shook his head. Then thought for a moment and said, let's go Shizuka. I haven't shown you the surprise I'm going to show you tonight. Oh, is there another surprise? Shizuka was slightly taken aback. Of course we pinky swear, have you forgotten? Shiraishi smiled and extended his little finger on his right hand. In fact, Shiraishi had thought about it while he was taking a shower. I originally intended to take Shizuka home so she could get some rest. But then I thought about it again. Sending Shizuka back so hastily. Having experienced such a terrifying event. Shizuka probably can't sleep either. What happened tonight? This was way beyond Shizuka's capabilities. It might even leave a psychological scar. Instead of going with the original plan, let's just take Shizuka out and have some fun, okay? Shizuka nodded just as Shiraishi had thought. She doesn't want to go home now, I reckon the moment I lie down. The memory of what just happened will come back to me. How could a young lady like her bear such a bloody stimulation? Just then, splash. A school of fish suddenly swam by in the air. Shizuka looked up and saw this scene and was stunned. Why do fish swim in the sky at that moment? Shizuka suddenly realized what was happening. Great white sharks like these fish are inexplicably able to swim on land. This is all thanks to Doryman. Shiraishi handed his glasses and swimming fins to Shizuka. Shizuka was clearly wearing swimming fins and goggles. In that instant, a seabed scene different from the normal seabed came into view. Shizuka was stunned again. Didn't you want to see the seabed? Didn't you want to go diving? Shiraishi opened his arms, looked at Shizuka who was slowly floating in midair, and smiled. Now the seabed is right in front of you. You're already diving. Shizuka swam with her legs and slowly swam into the air. At a glance in the air there are schools of fish. It really is like the seabed. Her mouth was slightly open, and her eyes were dreamy as she gazed at the beautiful scene before her. At that moment, she forgot everything that had just happened with the great white shark. The fish surrounded Shizuka, and she gradually lost herself in the moment. Shiraishi then made 2 consecutive leaps through the air, landing on the roof of Nobita's house. Leaning against the roof, he silently watched Shizuka play with the fish. My mindset from the fight with the great white shark has gradually calmed down. Put your hands behind your head. Shiraishi saw a fish swimming by and immediately began to toy with it using his telekinesis. Watching the fish crash into a non-existent wall. It swam to the side, then crashed into something again. A smile gradually appeared on Shiraishi's face. This isn't teasing the fish well. It's just training my mental power. Training your mental power is not just about improving your proficiency. You can improve your mental power with every training session. Gradually, I became somewhat mentally exhausted. Shiraishi yawned and leaned against the roof to fall asleep. Some time later, Shizuka came to his side and gently called his name. What's wrong, Shizuka? Shiraishi groggily wiped away the tears from the corners of his eyes. Trying to rouse himself, thank you, cousin Shiraishi, for giving me such a wonderful experience. Shizuka smiled, looking like she was in a good mood. The incident with the great white shark should have minimized its impact on her. If it drops any lower, it won't be able to drop any further. You're welcome, I promised you. Shiraishi waved his hand dismissively, jumped downstairs, glanced at the time and said, it's getting late, Shizuka. Let me take you home, Shizuka did not refuse and nodded. Because of the great white shark incident, even though Shizuka wanted to go back, Shiraishi wouldn't let her go back on her own. He personally escorted Shizuka to her doorstep. Goodbye, cousin Shiraishi, Shizuka spoke very softly, as if afraid of waking her parents. Okay, goodbye. Shiraishi left only after watching Shizuka close the door. Put on your goggles and then put on your swimming fins. With a swift movement of his legs, Baishi shot out into the virtual seawater in a flash. Like a sea mine, its legs moved very fast, leaving a trail of dense white bubbles behind it, cutting a white torrent through the virtual seawater. It's no wonder it's a gadget from Doryman. Once this thing was on his feet, Baishi's diving speed increased significantly. It's already close to the speed he used to run on the shore. After searching for a while, Shiraishi found Nobita and Doraemon spying on his father. Nobita had a business dinner today and didn't get back until very late. I'm already feeling a bit dizzy. He wandered aimlessly down the street and then saw a school of fish. He told the patrolling auxiliary police officer, who assumed he was drunk and hallucinating, let him go home. Nobita knew he was drunk, so he could only scratch his head. Even when he saw schools of fish again, he just assumed it was a hallucination from being drunk. Doraemon, why can Daddy see fish? Swimming atop the telephone pole, Nobita asked curiously. Because what people can't see is just virtual seawater. While the fish swim out of the sea and can survive in virtual seawater. So they are not virtual. And therefore people can see these fish. Shiraishi's voice rang out. This startled Nobita and Doraemon, making their hair stand on end after all at this time of day. Even with moonlight it's still quite dark. Suddenly a third voice appeared. Anyone would be terrified, wow, cousin Shiraishi. The two thought they had encountered a ghost. But when they turned around they realized it was Shiraishi. Nobita patted his chest and couldn't help but complain. Brother Shiraishi, your appearance was too sudden. You gave me quite a fright, oh I'm so sorry. Baishi laughed and said, I'm just testing your courage. How can you two be so timid? By the way, cousin Shiraishi, where did you go just now? Doraemon asked in confusion. Nobita and I have been looking for you for a long time. We wanted to take pictures and videos with you. But we couldn't find you. So we'll just have to take pictures first. Just now I was just wandering around by myself. I'm not interested in taking pictures or anything like that. You guys can take them. Shiraishi did not say that he went to fight a great white shark. Even if I told you, no one would believe me. He made up a lie to cover it up. Let's get back to the topic we were talking about earlier. Yes, Doraemon, was what cousin Shiraishi said true. Nobita's thirst for knowledge is bursting at this moment. Of course it's true. Doraemon nodded without hesitation. These fish aren't virtual fish. They're fish from the sea and everyone can see them. See, I was telling the truth, Shiraishi shrugged. Then changed the subject, but Doraemon, have you considered what might happen if people could see and touch these fish? For example, what if a shark smells the virtual seawater and the gas it carries, and is then attracted by the fish food and comes to the town? Baishi's words were clearly directed at something, yet. This is terrible. Doraemon and Nobita exchanged a glance. Their eyes filled with terror. If Dad can encounter fish, others can too. If there really is a shark, we're doomed. What to do? Doraemon and Nobita were seen circling around with their hands clasped together, looking conflicted. Shiraishi couldn't help but cover his forehead. Doraemon, why don't you just let the fish go back to the sea? He deliberately talked so much so that he wanted Doraemon to quickly put all the fish back into the sea. That's mainly what he said. It can attract a great white shark. Then a second one will be attracted. Great white sharks would not fare well in front of him. They would be killed by him. But in front of other ordinary people, with a length of 6 or 7 meters and a weight of that, a single sweep of its tail would be enough to give them a hard time. The longer the activity fishing pond and virtual seawater with gas are kept open, the chances of a second great white shark appearing are much higher. Let's hope that Doraemon doesn't end up turning into Jaws 1. Jaws 2, the great shark or the land shark. That bloodstained scene appeared in Doraemon. Even she couldn't imagine how incongruous it would be. This is also a way of protecting one's childhood. Yes. We need to get the fish back to the sea quickly. Shiraishi's words awakened Doraemon. He started frantically rummaging through his 4-dimensional treasure bag. Found it, the home music box. Doraemon pulled out a music box shaped like a frog, with a wind-up mechanism attached to the back. Then he unwound the spring and placed it on a fish's sorrow. A melodious and cheerful tune began to play. Yet it carried an indescribable sadness. The fish quickly gathered and followed the fish carrying the music box home. returning together to the ocean below the fishing pond. The music from the homecoming music box will make you suddenly want to go home, no matter where you are. Now the fish can all return to the sea. Doraemon breathed a sigh of relief and patted off imaginary dust from his hands. Nobita yawned widely, and a few sleepy tears welled up in his eyes. I want to go home too. I'm so sleepy, okay, let's go home and sleep. Doraemon nodded and looked at Shiraishi, who also had no objections. He was tired too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have fallen asleep on the roof of Nobita's house. Go home, you've taken all the photos and videos. Go home and get a good night's sleep. The three of them removed the glasses that allowed them to access the virtual seawater. A black shadow suddenly fell from the sky above Nobita's house. Shiraishi, Doraemon, and Nobita put on their bamboo copter, went straight back to the second floor, took out their blankets, spread them on the floor, and fell fast asleep the next morning. After having breakfast, Nobita went to work. Meanwhile, Shiraishi, Doraemon, and Nobita went to the couple's room. On the first floor of Nobita's house, there are two rooms on the left side. One is a reception room, and the other is where Nobita and his wife sleep. However, although Nobita and his wife's room is called a room, it actually has everything. It has everything, including a television. Sometimes we also host close friends here. The reception room is generally only used to entertain people who are not well acquainted with you. Nobita, let's watch the video from last night. Doraemon excitedly turned on the TV. I want to put the videotape in, however. As soon as the TV was turned on, all three of them were drawn to a news story. Doraemon also stopped inserting the videotape. In the news reports, a reporter stands in front of a great white shark carcass that looks extremely gruesome. This morning on his way to work, Mr. Nobita found the carcass of this great white shark. We still don't know why the great white shark's carcass ended up here. Oh, Mr. Nobita also said that he saw many schools of fish swimming in the air last night. But according to the auxiliary police officers who patrolled last night, Mr. Nobita was already quite drunk at the time. I watched Nobita appear on TV. Baishi was somewhat at a loss for words, both amused and exasperated. He forgot to dispose of the great white shark's carcass last night. However, upon closer reflection, he simply had no way of dealing with such a massive great white shark carcass. Where should I put it? There's no way to throw it away. Moreover, that blood isn't so easy to get rid of anyway. No one will find out that Shiraishi killed the great white shark. Great shark. Doraemon and Nobita watched the great white shark on the TV with great fear. I was terrified, incredibly terrified, luckily. I used the Go Home music box last night to send all the fish away. But why did this great white shark die? Doraemon swallowed hard. Will it hurt someone? Nobita spoke haltingly, his face showing great fear. Don't worry, it won't happen. Shiraishi offered a word of comfort at this moment. A reporter on television said, fortunately, although the great white shark is extremely ferocious, it did not cause any casualties. Doraemon let out a deep breath thankfully. There were no casualties. Otherwise, it would have been a real sin. Nobita patted his chest confidently as well. However, he still looked somewhat sad. Because of him, a life was lost. There should definitely be no gory scenes on the television. The great white shark's corpse has been blurred, but the blood-red patch was still visible. Nobita felt a little reluctant. Shiraishi and Doraemon both noticed Nobita's reluctance, smiled slightly and said nothing. Nobita doesn't have many good points. Kindness is one of them. If an adult thought the same way, Shiraishi would definitely start cursing. Do you know that a great white shark almost killed Shizuka last night? After hearing this, Nobita would probably be eager to go up and fight the great white shark. However, if the other party is a child, Shiraishi wouldn't mind letting him have a little more kindness towards the world. This is the purest side of children. There's really no need to suppress it. Hey Nobita. Since there were no casualties, let's not go look. Doraemon quickly changed the channel and inserted the videotape. Come watch the video of our diving yesterday with me. It's absolutely gorgeous. However, Nobita clearly hasn't come out of there yet. She stood up blankly, opened the door and said, "I'm going out to get some fresh air." Shiraishi and Doraemon exchanged a glance, then shrugged together. Being sentimental has always been one of Nobita's traits. Ah, this is terrible. Suddenly, Nobita's scream rang out, "Nobita." Doraemon was startled and immediately ran outside. "What's wrong?" Nobita Dakshing lay on the ground, pointing in shock at the bushes under the small tree in the yard. "What happened there?" Doraemon tiptoed forward and looked around. Ah. He also gasped in surprise, and then fell to the ground with Nobita. Shiraishi also came out of the room. "You too." "What's going on, cousin Shiraishi?" Nobita seemed to have found his pillar of support, instantly scrambling to his feet and running behind Shiraishi, saying fearfully, There it is, I saw a fishtail." Could it be that there were sharks that didn't return yesterday? "What fishtail?" Doraemon was stunned. He said blankly, "What I saw was a little girl." "Little girl?" Nobita was stunned. "How is this possible?" "Doraemon, you must be mistaken." "What? How could I possibly be wrong?" Doraemon crossed his short arms over his chest and gave Nobita a disgruntled look. "You must be mistaken. I would never be mistaken. It's definitely a fishtail." Nobita Nobai said with great certainty. Hee, how could that be?" Nobita were nearsighted. "How could you possibly see better than me?" Doraemon snorted. Nobita couldn't help but yell, "Doraemon, do you look down on nearsighted people? Nearsighted people can see very clearly too." Doraemon pouted, tilted his head and snorted, "I didn't." "Don't talk nonsense. You look down on people with nearsightedness. And you've already shown it." "I didn't." "You're talking nonsense." Shiraishi temporarily ignored the argument between the two. Fishtail, little girl, etc. Could this be Sophia? A female character suddenly flashed through Shiraishi's mind. He doesn't remember much of the plot, but there are some characters that I still know very well. It's etched into our DNA. Don't let everything be etched into your DNA. Annoyed. For example, Sophia the mermaid and Lululu the robot are both very memorable characters. They may have forgotten their purpose, their personalities, and how they came into contact with Doraemon and Nobita. I can't forget her face. And stop. Shiraishi quickly stopped Doraemon and Nobita's bickering. Can't you tell if she's a mermaid or a little girl just by looking? After saying that, he ignored Doraemon and Nobita. He walked directly to the clump of grass. At first glance, you can see a girl with blue hair and a small crown on her head, leaning quietly against the wall. She has delicate features and is very beautiful. Shiraishi was stunned for a moment. In my past life, I only thought animation was somewhat pretty. Only now that she's standing right in front of me can I truly appreciate how beautiful Sophia. As a mermaid is so beautiful at such a young age. When they grow up, won't they bring disaster to the country and its people? The only slight pity is, Sophia is no longer a mermaid, she now has human legs. Shiraishi also wants to try being a mermaid. Doraemon and Nobita were also bickering. Came to the two sides of the white stone. The moment I saw Sophia, both the person and the cat were stunned for a moment. So beautiful, Nobita Iyu Chinese letter Chinese letter Chinese letter Chinese letter. See. I told you she was a very cute girl. Doraemon retorted, how could my eyes be damaged, Nobita? You must have been thinking about sharks all the time. So you mistook the little girl for a fish. Whispering sound, Nobita scoffed dismissively. But deep down, I couldn't help but agree with Doraemon's statement. Just then, whoosh. Sophia suddenly opened her eyes, her gaze sharp. He leapt more than 2 meters into the air, directly over Shiraishi, Doraemon, and Nobita. Wow. Doraemon and Nobita were startled and fell to the ground again. Only Shiraishi remained unchanged, and even looked up at the scene. Don't get me wrong. It was just a coincidence that my eyes met Sophia's. Wow. That was such a cool jump. Doraemon and Nobita fell to the ground. I was completely blown away by Sophia's coolness just now. Oops, the door next to her was wide open and Nobita Mako, wearing an apron, walked out and looked at Sophia in surprise. Sophia was startled and turned her head to stare fiercely at Nobita Mako. This girl is so cute, Nobita's daughter Tamako. Glanced at Doraemon and Nobita lying on the ground. Doraemon. Nobita it up first, is this your friend? Before Doraemon and Nobita could even speak, Shiraishi ran up to Sophia and grabbed her soft little hand. Yes. Aunt Tamakatha's is our new friend. She came to our house to play with us. He was afraid that Sophia would suddenly lash out and get beaten up by Nobita Tamako. Suddenly having her hand grabbed, Sophia looked very uncomfortable, staring fiercely at Shiraishi and trying to break free. However, he was held firmly by Shiraishi and could not move at all. Am I right, am I right? Shiraishi glanced at Sophia and said with a smile. Sophia frowned. They had no idea what Shiraishi was talking about. But her keen senses told her that Shiraishi harbored no ill intentions. So he simply stopped struggling at this moment. Doraemon and Nobita also got up and went to Shiraishi and Sophia's side. Mom. Cousin Shiraishi is right, thighs is our friend. Who came to our house to play. What happened last night? Mom can't find out. This Sophia is definitely related to what happened last night, with the two of them there to support them. Shiraishi smiled and looked at Sophia again. Even though Sophia didn't understand what they meant, she could only nod. Is that so? Nobita Tamako nodded and said with a smile. Then please invite your friends in. I'll go get some snacks. Shiraishi took Sophia's hand and led her upstairs to the second floor. Doraemon and Nobita followed closely behind. A short while later, Nobita Tamako came up with some cookies and 4 glasses of juice. Shiraishi took the plate. Thank you, Aunt Tamako. There's no need to thank me, Zayabai. Please don't be so polite. Nobita Tamako waved her hand. You guys play. I'm going down first. With that, Nobita Tamako closed the door. Shiraishi placed the plate on the tatami mat. When Sophia saw the juice, it was as if she had seen the source of life. He dodged the glass of juice and gulped it down. She seemed very thirsty. Nobita scratched his head and sat cross-legged on the tatami mat. I don't know why. Doraemon was also puzzled. It would be strange if I wasn't thirsty. Shiraishi shook his head. Sophia is a mermaid. If I'm not mistaken, she must have fallen into the yard last night when we were waiting for others to come home. It's safe to say that it hasn't touched water all night. If it were a real fish, it would have died of thirst long ago. That means the mermaids have managed to survive until now. Tun tun tun. Sophia finished her glass of juice and put it aside. Then they focused their attention on Shiraishi and Doraemon. I noticed Shiraishi because he had been too friendly earlier. The reason I pay attention to Doraemon is because Doraemon's appearance is really... Sophia glanced at Shiraishi, then walked over to Doraemon. With a small hand, it began to squish Doraemon's face. While rubbing and kneading, he kept saying, percent. Nobody knows what they're talking about. It's a completely new language, me. Doraemon struggles to pronounce words. Sophia curiously reached out and poked Doraemon's little round nose. Doraemon, unable to bear the torment any longer, looked at Shiraishi with pleading eyes. Bye, she slapped his forehead. Then he reached out and grasped Sophia's wrist, gently pulling her aside. Percent. Sophia looked at Shiraishi and then mumbled a bunch of things that no one could understand. Doraemon, hurry up and get the translation konjac out. Shiraishi looked helplessly at Doraemon. Now it's his turn to ask Doraemon for help again. When it comes to translating konjac, Doraemon is a pro. He simply pulls out 3 and wants to eat them with himself. Shiraishi and Nobita waits. Shiraishi immediately stopped Doraemon's silly behavior. If we give her konjac jelly to eat, she can only understand what we say. And we can understand what she says. But others still can't understand what she's saying. It's wasteful to give her 3 translation konjac pills at once. It's better to just give her 1. Then everyone can understand what she's saying. Yes. Doraemon slapped his forehead and laughed sheepishly. I just didn't understand. He handed the translation of the konjac to Shiraishi. Shiraishi then gestured for Sophia to eat the translator konjac. Sophia glanced at the 3 of them with great vigilance. But I just drank the juice. If they wanted to harm her, they would have done it long ago. It's not our turn now, and so Sophia, half believing and half doubting, ate the konjac translator. All three looked at Sophia expectantly. Who are you? A crisp sound rang out, yay. Doryman and Nobita jumped up excitedly. Hello. Shiraishi greeted him with a smile. I can understand what you're saying now. And you can understand what I'm saying too. Sophia was immediately astonished. Is it all thanks to that thing from earlier? Well, that's right. Shiraishi patted Doryman's head. It's all thanks to Doryman. No, there isn't any. Doryman scratched his head sheepishly. The amazing pufferfish. Sophia looked at Doryman in amazement. What? All three of them were slightly taken aback. Shiraishi almost burst out laughing. Pufferfish. Cough, cough. It's good enough that they didn't say Doryman is a tanuki. However, this is also because Sophia is a mermaid from the sea and has never seen a raccoon dog. Otherwise, it would definitely have been a raccoon dog that came to mind. Doryman stood there frozen in place. Nobita was stunned for a moment, then rolled onto the ground and started laughing out loud. Hahaha pufferfish, fat pufferfish, Nobita. What are you laughing at? I'm sorry. Doryman glared at Sophia, hands on his hips and huffed. I'm not a pufferfish, I'm a cat-shaped robot. I'm Nobita Nobai and this is Doryman. Nobita changed the subject. Introducing Sophia, and this is my cousin. Nobita Shiraishi, you can call me Sophia. Sophia was slightly taken aback, then smiled and said, Hello, Sophia. Everyone greeted him saying, what a lovely name. Sophia, why are you here? Shiraishi sat down next to Sophia and asked, I don't know either. Sophia clearly wouldn't lie. A normal adult could tell at a glance that she was lying. Doryman and Nobita believed it. Shiraishi shook his head. Never mind if Sophia doesn't want to talk about it. He can't investigate further, after all. He and Sophia are only friends who have just met. Shiraishi, can you tell me where this is? Sophia looked at Shiraishi. Just now, Shiraishi even held her little hand. This naturally makes Sophia closer to Shiraishi among the three. This is Lanthai's is Nobita's house and right now. It's my house too. Baishi's words were clearly directed at something. Oh land. Sophia couldn't help but think of the scene from last night. She just kept swimming and ended up here. Everything on land was new and exciting to her. One slip up and that's how it happened. Doryman Nobita Shiraishi at that moment. Nobita Tamako called out from below, come down for dinner. If you don't mind, please invite your friends along too. Time to eat. Doryman and Nobita's eyes lit up and they ran down first. Let's go have lunch. Shiraishi glanced at Sophia. Sophia looked at Shiraishi, unsure of what to say. Seeing Sophia standing there in a daze, Shiraishi didn't shy away from it and took Sophia's small hand, leading her downstairs. Everyone looked at Shiraishi and Sophia holding hands. They couldn't help but chuckle to themselves. Nobita Tamako's face was adorned with a maternal smile. A genuine auntie smile. Come on, little white's friend. Sophia felt inexplicably embarrassed and quickly and gently pulled away from Baishi's hand. At Nobita Tamako's invitation, he sat down. Shiraishi smiled slightly and sat down next to Sophia. Today's lunch was simple yet not simple. It was just normal home-cooked food. Thankfully, there were no fish. This relieved Shiraishi. Although Sophia is a mermaid, but no one knows whether she will consider the fish to be her own kind. If a plate of braised fish were served at this moment, it would be incredibly awkward after finishing lunch. Nobita remembered that he had an appointment with Giant and the others that afternoon. I originally wanted to show off my diving photos and videos. But now, the sudden appearance of Sophia has made Nobita forget all about diving. With Sophia in tow, they headed towards the open space with Shiraishi. Along the way, Sophia looked around curiously, just like a child who had just entered the city. You've all arrived. Nobita looked at Giant and the others who were already sitting on the pipe. At this moment, Fat Tiger and the others are discussing the great white shark incident that happened this morning. Sunny-o, have you heard? A great white shark carcass was found on the street near us. It feels like a prank. It's on the news, how could it be a prank, fat tiger? I also heard that some people saw a lot of fish swimming in the air last night. Really, I'm not Nobita, don't lie to me. This is absolutely impossible. Listening to Jian and Sunio's discussion, Shizuka is not involved at all. She certainly knew what the great white shark and the school of fish were all about. But Shiraishi said not to tell anyone. And she would definitely keep it a secret. Just then Shiraishi and the others arrived, so beautiful. Jian and Sunio spotted Sophia next to Shiraishi at a glance. And their jaws dropped in astonishment, what a cute girl. Sunio even rolled right off the pipe. When these two saw how cute Sophia was, they wanted to come up and shake hands with her and get to know her. However, he was forced back by Shiraishi's gaze and awkwardly scratched his head. Shiraishi glanced at the two of them. Are you kidding me? You think I'd let you run into Sophia? Shizuka came up to her directly. Looking at Sophia with considerable surprise, hello. My name is Shizuka. Sophia glanced at Shiraishi reflexively. Throughout the journey, the sense of security that Beishi gave her made her unconsciously regard Beishi as her pillar of support. Shiraishi gave her a no-questions-asked look. Sophia then shook hands with Shizuka. Hello, Shizuka. You can just call me Sophia, I'm Shiraishi's good friend. Also, he's cousin Shiraishi's good friend. Shizuka glanced at Shiraishi, wondering how she could have been unaware that Shiraishi had such a cute female friend. Hello, Sophia, I'm Jian, I'm Sunio. We are all friends of cousin Shiraishi. Jian and Sunio introduced themselves, jostling each other from the front and back. Sophia also bowed slightly in a very polite manner. Hello. Sophia, how did you meet cousin Shiraishi? Shizuka asked with great curiosity. Well, Sophia really didn't know how to give a direct answer. After all, they hadn't actually known each other for very long. Shiraishi quickly changed the subject. That's a long story. I'll tell you about it another time. Yes, yes, yes. Doraemon and Nobita knew the inside story and both nodded in agreement with Shiraishi. At that moment, everyone suddenly noticed that Sophia was looking up, as if she was looking at something. Everyone followed Sophia's gaze and looked up at the sky. It turned out to be a civilian airliner flying by, leaving a long white trail behind it as it drew an arc in the air. A fish that swims in the sky, Sophia spoke in a daze. As for mermaids who have always lived in the deep sea, this is the first time I've ever seen an airplane. That's one way to describe it, Shiraishi shrugged. Fish swimming in the sky. Doraemon scratched his head. A very good analogy. Isn't this just an airplane, Zio-fu? Completely oblivious to the situation said. Although it's not common, you can see it occasionally. Sophia, you didn't just come from the countryside, did you? You've never seen this before. This kid can be really annoying sometimes. Shiraishi and Jian hooked their arms around Sunio's neck. Jian squinted and said, young man, what are you talking about? Zio-fu can't talk, just ignore him. Shiraishi also smiled. Two incredibly strong people hooked their arms around Zio-fu's neck. And Zio-fu's face quickly turned red. I was wrong, I was wrong, I was wrong. Zio-fu apologized repeatedly before the two released him. Sophia didn't pay attention to what Sunio said, and continued to look at the plane in the sky with her eyes unfocused. A completely different experience from what's underwater. Do you want to fly and swim? Do you want to swim in the sky? She suddenly spoke up. Sophia looked away and gazed longingly at Shiraishi. Is it possible? Can I swim in the sky too? Sure. Shiraishi nodded without hesitation. Then patted Doraemon's head. Doraemon, take out the bamboo copter, no problems. Doraemon chuckled, took out a lot of bamboo copters and handed two to Shiraishi. Shiraishi put one of them on, and then put the other on Sophia's head. Sophia touched the bamboo dragonfly on her head and asked curiously, what is this? This is a bamboo dragonfly, a pufferfish. Oh no, Doraemon's magical gadget. Something that lets you swim in the sky. Shiraishi smiled slightly, took Sophia's hand, and flew directly into the air with her. The children below are also wearing bamboo copters given to them by Doryman. Following behind Shiraishi and Sophia. I'm swimming in the sky, Sophia's eyes widened. Then she laughed excitedly, I really swam in the sky. Her left hand was held by Baishi, and her limbs were relaxed and stretched out, allowing her to fully enjoy the gentle breeze on her face. I closed my eyes slightly and thoroughly enjoyed it. Want to try it yourself? Shiraishi then laughed and said. The best way to experience swimming or flying in the sky is to do it yourself. Can I really fly in the sky all by myself? Sophia looked at Shiraishi. Her eyes filled with excitement, sure. Shiraishi taught Sophia how to use the bamboo dragonfly. The clever Sophia was a little awkward at first, but she quickly got the hang of it and was able to roam freely across the land. I really swam in the sky. Sophia's clear laughter was like that of a nightingale. It's as if you can hear it everywhere. Sophia is really happy. Doryman and the others also had smiles on their faces. It was their first time flying, and they were actually quite similar to Sophia in that. Shiraishi followed Sophia at a comfortable distance. Feeling happy to see her so joyful, I'm so happy. Shiraishi, I'm really happy. Sophia paused in midair for a moment, then opened her arms as if to embrace the sky and fly towards the heavens. She wanted to see how high she could fly, go too far. Shiraishi's eyes were filled with a smile as he reminded Sophia from behind. However, Shiraishi had barely finished speaking. Sophia felt a wave of dizziness. The sunlight fell on Sophia, making her feel as if the water in her body was constantly decreasing. Sophia frowned slightly and held up her hand to shield her eyes. The sun grew increasingly blinding, and the dizziness intensified. My body went limp and I found myself suspended in midair. If it weren't for the bamboo dragonfly, she would have fallen, Sophia. Everyone gasped in surprise and quickly flew toward Sophia. However, Shiraishi had been watching Sophia the whole time, and as soon as Sophia fainted, he immediately reached out and carried her in a princess carry. Sophia, are you all right? Baishi asked anxiously, do you need water? It was only then that Shiraishi realized what was happening. As a mermaid, Sophia only drank 1 glass of water all day. Now let it bask in the sun again. Wouldn't it turn into a salted fish by now? Oh wait. The word salted fish really doesn't suit Sophia at all. Wouldn't that make you faint from the sun, Shiraishi? Waters, I need waters. She leaned against Baishi's chest. Sophia weakly met Shiraishi's gaze and gently reached out to grasp his arm. The allure of that moment made Baishi slightly dazed. Delicate beauties, delicate beauties. No wonder so many people like delicate beauties. No, now is not the time to think about these things. Shiraishi shook his head, dismissing the strange idea, Doryman, anywhere door. Quick, alright, watch this anywhere door. Doryman quickly pulled out a giant anywhere door from his 4-dimensional magic pocket. Shiraishi reached out and pressed the doorknob of the anywhere door. When it opened, the door to Nobita's bathroom was right there. Without any hesitation, Shiraishi carried Sophia straight into the bathroom. Doryman, Shizuka, Nobita, Giant, and Sunio also caught up. They were all very anxious and wanted to rush into the bathroom. But Shiraishi didn't even glance at them, and slammed the door shut behind him. Doryman slammed into the door and clutched his aching head. In this moment of desperation, Shiraishi disregarded the distinction between men and women, quickly filled the bathtub with water, then took off Sophia's clothes and put her in the bathtub. As soon as Sophia touched the water, she was like a swallow returning to its nest, burying herself completely in it. As Sophia gradually recovered, Shiraishi finally breathed a sigh of relief. I realized I shouldn't be here, Sophia, you soak for now. Call me if you need anything. Shiraishi coughed lightly and then left the bathroom. The bathroom doorway, everyone stood there anxiously. Upon seeing Shiraishi emerge, immediately asked, how did it go, cousin Shiraishi? Don't worry, it's all right now. Baishi shook his head and everyone was relieved. Call. For a moment, no one could say anything. Everyone looked at each other in bewilderment. He seemed to feel a little embarrassed. Sunio spoke up. looking at Shiraishi with a teasing expression. Cousin Shiraishi, how did you manage to put Sophia in the water? How else can you put it? Of course, you put it naked. Without a second thought, Shiraishi blurted out. What else could we do? Put Sophia in there fully clothed. Oh wait, she suddenly remembered. Sophia's clothes seemed to be special. It can be soaked in water. It wasn't that Shiraishi was thinking of a scene from a Doraemon movie. He was indeed a bit anxious and agitated, just no otherwise. He should have been able to figure it out if he thought about it. After all, Sophia came from the sea. Did she come naked? Of course they were wearing clothes. Oh. She had barely finished speaking. The crowd erupted in extremely sarcastic and jeerful cheers. Cough cough, Shiraishi coughed awkwardly. I was just in a hurry and didn't think too much about it. You guys would have done the same. Yes, that's definitely true. Shizuka nodded beside her and gave a soft snort. You lot. Don't get any ideas, we weren't thinking anything. Ducksheng and the others quickly retorted. I wonder how much longer Sophia will stay. Doraemon leaned against the wall next to him. Shiraishi said it should be soon. When I came out, Sophia was already awake just then. Shiraishi, could you come in for a moment? Sophia's voice came from the bathroom. They actually wanted Shiraishi to go back in. The group exchanged glances, coughed, and looked around nervously, pretending not to have seen anything. Shiraishi glanced speechlessly at the group of kids, thinking, what do you know? Then he opened the bathroom door and went inside. He was very careful when opening the bathroom door. Thank you, Shiraishi. Sophia was completely submerged in the water, with only half of her head above the surface. But it can still be found. Sophia's face turned slightly red. He also dared not look directly at the white stone. Shiraishi then noticed that Sophia wasn't dressed yet, and quickly turned her head away. It's okay. We're friends, right? Friends help each other out. Shiraishi coughed a few more times. He always felt that all the coughs he would ever experience in his life would end today. There was a brief silence, splash. The sound of water dripping onto the ground. Shiraishi, aren't you curious why I need so much water? Sophia's voice sounded somewhat hesitant. But amidst the hesitation, there was also an inexplicable sense of determination. It's quite contradictory, just curious, Shiraishi. Still with his back to Sophia, nodded and said, You're not human, are you, Sophia? Turn around, I'm already dressed. Shiraishi turned his head and noticed that Sophia looked a little pale, with her head down, seemingly conflicted. You're a mermaid, right, Sophia? Shiraishi spoke slowly. Sophia suddenly looked up, staring at Shiraishi in disbelief. How did you know? Because I'm one of the few people who have seen your fishtail. Shiraishi told a lie when he went to see her. Sophia's tail had already turned into legs. So far, only Nobita has ever seen a fishtail. So that's how it is. Sophia lowered her head again. That's right, I am a mermaid. Seeing Sophia's expression, Shiraishi felt a pang of heartache and hugged her, sting. It's all right, a mermaid is fine, what's the big deal? Don't you care that I'm a mermaid? Sophia looked at Shiraishi, pursed her lips, and had a rather pitiful expression. Of course I don't care at this moment. Shiraishi gently wrapped his arms around Sophia's arms and said with his head down, Are you really okay? Sophia still felt somewhat anxious and uncertain. It's really okay. Shiraishi reiterated with absolute certainty. Moreover, not only me but no one else will care, is this true? And nobody cares. Sophia was stunned. She is young. But there are some things I still understand. A mermaid. That's a mermaid. I can't say for sure about others. And I can't be sure either, but Doraemon, Nobita, Giant Sunio, and Shizuka definitely won't care. Shiraishi nodded very firmly. Joke. Are there few strange and wonderful creatures in Doraemon? These people played with Ducksheng, and Ducksheng would occasionally take out some strange gadgets. They even have a time machine. How could I possibly care about a mermaid? In order to completely dispel Sophia's doubts, Shiraishi thought for a moment and said, Right. Just look at Doraemon, right? Doraemon is a robot, you know. And he's not quite the same as humans. Do you think people would care about that? You've noticed, haven't you? We treat Doraemon like family. And Doraemon never worries about whether anyone cares that he's a robot. Sophia nodded with some skepticism. If you don't believe me, why don't you go out and ask around? Shiraishi took Sophia's little hand and walked outside. Maybe not, trust me, there's really no problem. And you can't hide it from me by this time. Everyone had returned to their rooms on the second floor. Shiraishi walked to the top of the stairs. My keen hearing allowed me to hear that they were talking. They are currently discussing something related to Sophia. Everyone could sense that something was wrong. Who would suddenly faint and then want water in addition? Nobita brought up the fact that he saw a fishtail that morning. Based on this, the friends started analyzing Sophia's identity. That guy has no sense at all. He guessed that the beautiful Sophia was a kappa. She was speechless. He pushed open the doors, stopped guessing, as she spoke. She pushed Sophia, who was looking down and somewhat nervous. In front of her, Sophia is a mermaid. What? The group of friends were instantly stunned, mermaids. Although they were already guessing. But now that the facts are in front of us, we can't help but be surprised, really. Sophia, are you really a mermaid? Oh my god, Doraemon. I told you I definitely wasn't mistaken, that's a fishtail. But Sophia, why don't you have a fishtail now? Sophia looked at her friends in front of her. Her friends didn't show any fear or other emotions because she was a mermaid. Sophia breathed a slight sigh of relief, etc. Suddenly, Nobita seemed to remember something. Immediately take out paper and pen from the drawer, then, under everyone's watchful eyes, he started scribbling and drawing randomly. Finally, they produced an extremely abstract painting. Sophia, is this what they call a mermaid? Looking at the drawing in Nobita's hand, everyone was slightly taken aback at first. Then Giant and Sunio fell to the ground and burst into laughter without any regard for their image. Shizuka and Doraemon couldn't help but cover their mouths to stifle their laughter. Even Sophia couldn't help but chuckle. Nobita, your drawing is so ugly. Nobita, you drew Sophia so ugly. Aren't you afraid your cousin Shiraishi will beat you up? Shiraishi spread his hands, looking completely innocent. I didn't mean to beat up Nobita, don't talk nonsense. Nobita was humiliated when he saw his drawing being insulted like this. I suddenly got a little angry, but after taking another look, he couldn't hold back anymore and lowered his head dejectedly. I'm sorry. My drawing is really too ugly, it's okay, Nobita. Although I'm ugly, I can vaguely make out some mermaid features. Actually, I'm not the mermaid you're imagining. Sophia explained it to everyone briefly. It turns out that she's actually not much different from humans in everyday life. If it's in the sea, then you can use your clothes to create a fishtail. No wonder people say they're swimming in the air when they see airplanes and they take off. Sunio nodded for fish. Airplanes are indeed swimming in the air, right? But you said earlier that Sophia was a country bumpkin. Giant hooked his arm around Sunio's neck again. Squinting his eyes, haha. That's because they didn't know Sophia was a mermaid. Sunio grabbed Giant's arms with both hands and laughed awkwardly. Hey, Sophia, is your home in the sea? Nobita Nobai sat on the tatami mat leaning slightly forward, looking at Sophia sitting in the chair with great curiosity. Yes. Sophia smiled and nodded. Our ancestors came to Earth 5,000 years ago. And after arriving on Earth, we have been living in the sea ever since. Arrived on Earth. Everyone exclaimed, Sophia, are you actually an alien? If it's 5,000 years, then it coincides perfectly with the legend of the mermaid. Zairafu does know a bit about these strange and unusual things. Doraemon crossed his arms and tilted his head, so that's how it is. Sophia's ancestors just happened to live in the sea. Maybe that's how the mermaid legend came about. Why did you, as aliens, come to Earth? Shiraishi couldn't help but ask a question. Since I've already forgotten the plot of the movie, it's always good to know more about these things. Sophia glanced at Baishi and explained. According to legend, our mermaid race has always lived on Blue Water Star, which is very similar to Earth, but Sophia shared the legend with everyone. It's actually quite simple. It's simply that the oceans of Blue Planet were polluted, making it impossible for life to survive. So Sophia's ancestors led their people to search for a place where they could live. They just happened to find the ocean on Earth. And so it has been living on the seabed ever since. Wow. So that means you haven't really been on land for over 5,000 years. Zairofu asked in surprise, Shiraishi smiled knowingly, Sophia. Would you like me to show you around the city on land? I imagine you're quite curious about cities on land. Good, Sophia nodded, her expression seemingly filled with a strange longing for the land. All right, let's go, Doryman shouted. Let's take Sophia out for a good look around. With that, Sophia's friends surrounded her and went out together. First, he took Sophia for a walk around the neighborhood. For example, the back mountain and the school. Sophia found it all very novel. There are also many small hills similar to the one behind the mountain on the seabed. But such lush green trees don't actually exist. Everything on land was completely new to Sophia. Immediately afterwards, Shiraishi took Sophia for a stroll in the street. Sophia stared blankly at the cars driving by on the street and said, "So many fish and so many fish." The children all wore doting smiles. Baishi smiled slightly and explained Sophia. This isn't a fish, it's a Kara product of human technology. I gave a brief explanation, Sophia nodded. Half understanding. The technology on land is really amazing, impressive. Actually, for them, it's not that impressive. It's like a modern person going to ancient times. Seeing those ingenious creations from ancient times, one can't help but exclaim in amazement. Shiraishi understood this. Next, I took Sophia for a walk around. I also explained the rules on land to Sophia this time. It's because everyone knows that Sophia is a mermaid from the sea. So the story that Sunio said Sophia was a country bumpkin didn't happen. On the contrary, Sunio seems to have spontaneously taken on the role of land promotion ambassador. He handed over all the knowledge he had acquired in his life. But they are, after all, elementary school students. Mistakes still happen from time to time. Shiraishi would correct his mistakes, which would then draw ridicule from Giant and Nobita. These two actually managed to unite at this point, which is quite rare. This expresses utter contempt for Sunio's pretentious attitude. Soon it was almost evening. Shiraishi had been habitually thinking of taking everyone out to eat, so he wouldn't go home in his previous life. He used to take his children out to play a lot. But then I suddenly realized I didn't have a single penny in my pocket. So I really couldn't afford to take them out to eat. This is a bit awkward, you still can't get by without money. The group parted ways in the open space. Bye-bye, Sophia, see you tomorrow. I had a great time today, thank you all, back home. Sophia sat cross-legged on the tatami mat, looking up and saying it felt so good. Thank you for showing me around the land today. Oh, it's nothing. Doryman scratched his head sheepishly. Nobita pressed down on Doryman's head. Doryman. Sophia is thanking her cousin Shiraishi, isn't she? No, there isn't. Sophia blushed. Of course I want to thank everyone. To be honest, we have always been forbidden from coming to land from the seabed. But I just stumbled upon this place by accident. Under the teasing gazes of Shiraishi and Nobita, Doryman coughed awkwardly. It's all his fault, Nobita. Doryman, come down here for a second. Mom needs your help with something. At that moment, Nobita Mako's voice rang out. Doryman fled the room as if he were running away. Nobita was reluctant to go downstairs and wanted to talk to Sophia some more. But Doryman dragged him away. Sophia, is there anything else you wish for? Now only Shiraishi and Sophia remain in the room. Desire. Sophia paused for a moment, then tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear, walked to the window, looked at the boundless sky bathed in the glow of the setting sun, and a hint of melancholy flashed in her eyes. We mermaids miss our former homeland very much. So I want to see it again, take a look at our hometown. Shiraishi thought for a moment. Doryman's anywhere door can do that. But it's a pity we don't have the coordinates of Blue Water Star. Otherwise we could just go there directly, it's all right. I'm already very satisfied to be able to come ashore and see this sky. Sophia shook her head indifferently. A bright smile graced his face. They really don't seem to care about these things. Having already received an unexpected bonus. She is not someone who is never satisfied, however. Shiraishi wanted to fulfill her wishes as much as possible. He glanced at Sophia. Sophia, I'll go see if there's anything I can help with downstairs. You rest at home. If you need water, you can tell Aunt Yuzi. Sophia nodded obediently. Oh, by the way, what is the blue water star you mentioned like? I'm not really sure either, but according to legend. Blue water star along with 3 other planets and the moon. Forms a pentagon. Okay, I understand. Shiraishi ran down quickly. Doraemon is wearing an apron and a bamboo copter, preparing to go out to buy groceries. Nobita was then asked to start working as Tama's assistant. Doraemon, I'm with you, Shiraishi greeted them. Then took a bamboo dragonfly, put it on his head, and flew into the sky with Doraemon while flying. She also told Doraemon about Sophia's thoughts. Cousin Shiraishi, do you want to fulfill Sophia's wishes? Doraemon asked curiously, but just like you said. Without coordinates, the anywhere door can't locate blue water star. There is no need to locate blue water star. She shook his head. We don't know what the situation is like on blue water star. It might only disappoint Sophia. It's better to stay on Earth and let Sophia see the planet she once knew. I see, Doraemon said, excitedly adding. Then I'll go find everyone and we'll work together to think of a solution for Sophia. Don't tell Sophia this is a surprise we prepared. Shiraishi gave a word of advice. Then the 2 of them each took a few bamboo dragonflies. They began to gather Giant, Sunio, and Shizuka, and so. Because of the bamboo dragonflies, they soon gathered again in the open space. Looking at the puzzled friends, Shiraishi reiterated his thoughts to everyone. What a romantic idea to surprise Sophia. Shizuka clasped her hands together, looking on with longing. Blue water star. Zio-fu thought for a moment and said, according to Sophia's description of the pentagon, Auriga should be the most famous constellation, however. Auriga is a constellation that can only be seen in winter, so it's probably not visible in Japan right now. It's okay, having this message is enough. Shiraishi patted Sunio on the shoulder. Well done, Sunio. It's nothing, Zio-fu scratched his head sheepishly. Shiraishi looked at Doraemon. Doraemon, although it's summer in Japan now, there must be places on Earth where it's winter. Like the southern hemisphere. I'll trouble you to look for them, no problem. Leave it to me, back home. You can see Sophia helping Nobai Tamako in the kitchen. Sophia, you're too kind, you're a guest. It's okay, Auntie, I can help you, you're such a good boy. And you do things so well, you are so much better than Nobita. What, Mom? Doraemon and Shiraishi exchanged a glance. Mom, Auntie. We're back. Give the necessary ingredients to Nobai Tamako, then. While Sophia was still helping Nobai Tamako with her work, they pulled Nobita aside and explained the decisions everyone had just made to him. Yay, Nobai loves joining in on this kind of fun. And nodded excitedly, but I have to tell you, Nobita. Don't give anything away. Or don't blame me for not telling you next time something like this happens. Shiraishi extended a finger as a warning, don't worry. Nobita patted his chest and assured everyone. I'm the best at keeping secrets. Dinner's ready, Shiro, Nobita, Doraemon. They're here after everyone finished eating. Doraemon and Nobita hurriedly but mysteriously said, Sophia, I'll have to go out for a bit, we'll be back in a bit. After saying that, he ran out. Sophia stared blankly at the 2 departing figures. Completely bewildered, what are they doing? Ignore them, they do this all the time. Shiraishi smiled slightly and led Sophia back to the room. Is there anywhere you'd like to go tonight? I can take you for a walk. No, not at the moment. Sophia shook her head. I'm already very grateful to everyone for showing me around today. I won't trouble you any further. Shiraishi chatted with Sophia casually. Using his knowledge, he could occasionally make Sophia cover her mouth and chuckle. By the way, Sophia, don't you really want to go back to your hometown? Shiraishi's question made Sophia pause for a moment. Then she said in a longing tone, I would like to. But I would be content just to be able to come to land. Don't be so easily satisfied, Shiraishi stood up. Took Sophia's Hondan jog to lead her to the open space. Right now in the open space only Doraemon stood there. And next to him was the iconic Anywhere door. Doraemon's eyes narrowed with a smile. And he put his hands behind his back. Cousin Shiraishi, Sophia, you're here. Doraemon walked away quietly like a greeter, please. Sophia seemed to have figured something out at this moment. And looked at Shiraishi with a certain gaze. By she smiled slightly, you are the one to open this door. Go, Sophia gave Shiraishi another long look, then. Mustering his courage, he opened the Anywhere door and stepped inside, whoosh. It was a view unlike that of modern cities. Under the dim night sky countless stars. Like bright pearls inlaid in the celestial canopy. Weaving a galaxy that sparkles with light, surprise. Suddenly everyone sprang out from all around, welcome. Sophia. Sophia looked at the crowd in front of her with surprise. Shizuka, Nobita, Giant, Sunio, everything is in place. We can't find the exact coordinates of Blue Water Star. We can only find a place where we might be able to see it from afar. So please don't mind, Shiraishi's voice rang out. Sophia turned her head and her eyes met Shiraishi's. Doraemon was right next to me. With a constant smile on his face, she was deeply moved. Shiraishi. Sophia looked at Shiraishi, who had a smile on his face. I felt as if a string in my heart had been plucked. At that moment, even though she was just a little girl, she seemed to understand the taste of sweetness. It's weird, but I like it. He then turned to look at his friends and everyone else. Thank you so much, I definitely won't mind. How could I possibly mind? The others laughed and said, we're glad you don't mind. Beep beep beep, suddenly Nobita made a strange sound. Rubbing the goosebumps on his arms, thank goodness Shiraishi came. Otherwise I would have frozen to death, it's so cold here. It's a winter night here, of course it's cold. Sunio proudly showed off his gear to Giant, that's why we prepared thick clothes early on. So we're not cold at all, Novaheshi, you idiot Nobita. Even Shizuka put on a coat. Only Nobita Nobai was still wearing a short-sleeved shirt and shorts. Besides, cousin Shiraishi is dressed similarly to you. So why is it that cousin Shiraishi has no problem but you don't? How can I compare to my cousin Shiraishi? Dugsheng sneered. Jumping up and down from the cold, you guys are so annoying. Thank you, Nobita, Sophia thanked her. Nobita became embarrassed and said, no, not really. This place is truly beautiful. Sophia looked up and enjoyed the beautiful scenery with her friends. The night sky is truly beautiful. The stars are shining brightly. Shiraishi also looked up at the starry sky, lost in thought. In fact, they had never seen such a beautiful starry sky before. When Shiraishi was born, the world was already very developed. And such scenes were no longer seen. Only in such a pristine place can such beautiful scenery be preserved. Shiraishi murmured to himself. Hey Doraemon, can you find the planet Sophia wants to see? Suddenly Fat Tiger spoke up and asked. That would be very difficult. Doraemon scratched his face, but if we look carefully, we should still be able to find it. Yes, let's do our best. Giant Sunio Shizuka and Doraemon exchanged glances and began their efforts to find Blue Water Star for Sophia. However, there are so many stars in the sky. Finding a planet is so difficult. Sophia slowly lowered her head, looking at the group of people who were searching for Blue Water Star for her. As well as white stone, I stared blankly at this scene. Perhaps, what's more precious than Blue Water Star is this friendship. Especially when you see something so cold you want to jump up and down. But Nobita is still earnestly searching for Blue Water Star. And when Shiraishi was wearing clothes that were about as thin as Nobita's. Everyone stopped looking. Sophia suddenly broke into a bright smile, although we didn't see Blue Water Star directly. But I believe that as long as I see this starry sky, Blue Water Star is already in my sight. Don't get cold, everyone's. Sophia's friends could all feel her kindness, and their hearts were filled with warmth. Doraemon flashed that doting smile again. Nobita can't take it anymore, let's go back first. The friends actually wanted to keep looking, however. Sophia insisted that her friends shouldn't catch a cold because of her. So they had no choice but to return to the open space together. Thank you everyone, Sophia gave a slight bow. Sophia kept thanking us all day and we felt all numb. Even the usually outgoing fat tiger became shy and awkward. He kept saying that it was nothing at all, and that it was all his cousin Shiraishi's idea. Upon hearing this, Sophia turned her head and saw that Shiraishi was also looking at her. The two looked at each other, their faces lighting up with bright smiles. Back home, Sophia was originally planning to leave, however. Seeing how excited Shiraishi, Doraemon, and Nobita, they didn't bring it up for the time being. Instead, he decided to stay at Nobita's house for the night. No one was surprised. It all seemed like a natural progression. Although she's a girl, we're all kids. It's fine for us to wear pajamas and sleep in the same room, as long as we're not in the same bed. Fortunately, Shiraishi's move-in helped. Nobita's house has a lot more bedding now. There's more than enough room for Sophia to make a makeshift bed on the floor. Doraemon still sleeps in the closet. Nobita sleeps on the left, Sophia sleeps on the right. And Shiraishi sleeps in the middle. Good night. X4 Nothing happened that night. They're just kids, what could possibly happen? The next morning, after breakfast, I stayed at home for a while longer. Around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Sophia spoke up, Shiraishi, Doraemon, I need to go back. Back to my palace, she gave Shiraishi a special look. She's just a little girl after all. The expression was still written on his face. What? A palace? Nobita, who was never good at grasping the essentials, suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Sophia, are you perhaps the queen? What? Sophia was slightly taken aback at first, then sat down on a chair and laughed. No, Nobita. I haven't inherited the throne yet. I'm still just a princess. Princess. The princess is amazing too, okay. Nobita and Doraemon exclaimed in unison, wow. I never imagined Sophia was a mermaid princess. I never expected that our friend would be a princess. It's truly an honor. Shiraishi wasn't as surprised as Nobita and Doraemon. After all, his impression of Sophia reminded him to some extent of her identity as Princess Sophia. How annoying, you're just teasing me. Sophia playfully scolded Shiraishi. Haha, I didn't, after all you're a princess. Baishi waved his hand, say it again. Okay, I won't say any more, okay. Watching Shiraishi and Sophia laughing and joking, Doraemon and Nobita exchanged a glance. And both of them smiled like doting ants, but Sophia, are you sure you want to leave without saying goodbye? Suddenly Shiraishi became serious. Huh. Sophia was stunned, forget Shizuka and Jian. They really considered you a friend. They would be heartbroken if they knew you were leaving like this. Shiraishi explained in a serious tone, so my suggestion is to say goodbye to them first. He didn't actually want Sophia to leave. But Sophia leaving is an absolute certainty. Their family members are all underwater. Could Baishi possibly tie someone to the land? Sophia thought for a moment and nodded yes, Shiraishi. You're right, and so under Doraemon's control. The group gathered again in the open space. I heard you're leaving, is that right, Sophia? When Shizuka saw Sophia came to greet her, her expression full of reluctance. Sophia, I heard you're a princess of the mermaid clan. Does that mean you're royalty and have to go back to the palace? Ziofu's eyes shone with a different kind of light. I'm really curious about how big and luxurious the palace is. Is it even bigger than my house? Hey Sunio, you're way too arrogant. Comparing your house to a palace. You're really overestimating yourself. Fat Tiger mocked mercilessly. The friends seemed to be using teasing to dispel the sadness of parting. Doraemon pulled out a mobile fishing pond from his 4-dimensional magic pocket. The markings on the fishing pond are still the same as before. Thankfully, Doraemon hadn't changed anything. Otherwise, I would have had to look for it again. Looking at the familiar fishing pond in front of him, he realized that this was where he had come to land. Sophia stood in front of the activity fishing pond. her reluctance written all over her face. Her eyes almost always on Shiraishi, yes. She was also very reluctant to part with her friends. But it's clearly not to the point where they absolutely have to be together. It's mainly Shiraishi and just 2 days Shiraishi. This seasoned veteran had already firmly captured the heart of Sophia. This young girl. Sophia seemed to want to say something but hesitated. She almost wanted Shiraishi to keep her there a little longer. Maybe they'll stay. Of course, she knew that was impossible. As a princess of the mermaid race, she suddenly disappeared for 2 days. The merfolk must be frantically searching for them. How could I possibly stay any longer thinking about this? Sophia's mood became somewhat depressed again. Sophia was staring at him with that look in her eyes. Shiraishi's heart skipped a beat, and he stared blankly at Sophia's retreating figure, blurting out uncontrollably, "Sophia, how about we take you home?" He noticed that everyone was suddenly looking at him. Shiraishi's expression returned to normal, and he coughed lightly before blurting out his reason, "Nobita. Sunio Shizuka Giant. Didn't you all want to see the mermaid clan's palace? Besides, Sophia came to land because of us. No matter how you look at it, shouldn't we personally send Sophia back? Sophia, you're not going to turn us down, are you?" Shiraishi wouldn't say directly that he also couldn't bear to part with Sophia. "Joke, I'm a grown man's. How could you say something so cloying? Impossible, absolutely impossible." Sophia turned around abruptly, her expression visibly shifting from dejection to joy as she looked at Shiraishi with delight. "Of course, I have no problem. Not a single problem. The merfolk welcome you." Seemingly noticing the strange looks on her friends' faces, Sophia lowered her head shyly and quickly added. With everyone, the group looked at each other, their eyes filled with surprise and delight. "Brother Shiraishi is right. Let's go, let's go, let's go to the palace. We must form an escort team for Sophia. All right, since you all insist, let's set off." Doraemon took out a mirror-like gadget from his 4-dimensional magic pocket and then magnified it with a magnifying lamp. He then gestured for Sophia to walk to the mirror. Then Doraemon adjusted the markings on the mirror. Immediately afterwards, a new outfit appeared in the mirror. Exactly the same as Sophia's mermaid suit. Only the color was slightly different. If we're going to go underwater, we might not be able to do it without Sophia's mermaid suit. Doraemon put his hands on his hips and said, as if taking credit. Doraemon's gadgets looked too much like magic. Sophia watched this scene in amazement. Shiraishi laughed and said in a sense, "Doraemon's gadgets are actually no different from magic." "Hee, Doraemon is omnipotent," Nobita laughed happily. "Although it sometimes malfunctions." Fat Tiger chuckled. Zio, fuss standing next to him, immediately added insult to injury. "What do you mean occasionally?" "It malfunctions frequently, Doraemon." His face flushed with anger, shouted, "Are you still going or not? If you do go, put on these mermaid suits." Okay, Doraemon, don't be angry." The friends used the anywhere door to return to their homes, and then put on mermaid outfits. Doraemon is blue and white. Nobita's shirt is yellow, almost exactly the same as his short-sleeved shirt, and he wears a light blue skirt. Shizuka wore a pale yellow dress with a red skirt. Giant is wearing a dark blue dress with a purple skirt. Sunio wore a white top and a green skirt. Shiraishi wore a light blue top with a red skirt, a color scheme similar to Superman's uniform and cape. I don't know if it's a coincidence or what. In addition to that, there are adaptive lights. Immediately afterwards, Doraemon took out a small light, swept it across and shone it into all his friends. Whitestone was among them. This time we're going to the real deep sea, instead of being in virtual seawater. With his current physical condition, he would suffocate if he went into the sea. Mission accomplished. Now everyone can survive in any environment. Doraemon nodded in satisfaction, even the seabed. Sophia asked in surprise, "Sure." Shiraishi answered for Doraemon, "Once you get used to the light, you can survive in any dangerous place. Although it can only last for 24 hours, that's enough." "I see." Sophia nodded in sudden realization, no matter how you look at it. Doraemon's gadgets are still exactly the same as magic. Who isn't? Shiraishi shrugged even though I've seen many props. I still can't help but marvel at their magic every time I see them again. It's not that good, Doraemon's. Feeling embarrassed by the praises said, all right, let's go. Let's go. Nobita shouted and jumped directly into the activity fishing pond. Then there's Giant, Sunio, Shizuka, and Doraemon. Shiraishi and Sophia exchanged a glance, smiled at each other, and then jumped into the activity fishing pond with them. After falling into the sea, the friends, under Doraemon's command, pressed the button on the waist of the mermaid suit. Several beams of light burst forth, and everyone's legs transformed into mermaid tails. Alas, like a dragon entering the deep sea. Baishi flicked his tail and shot out like a cannonball. Led by Sophia, the group, while playing, they headed towards the underwater mermaid tribe's settlement. Shiraishi and Sophia unconsciously held hands and swam freely in the sea. The group encountered many different kinds of fish on their journey. Whether it's a giant whale, a small shark, a dense school of fish, a sea turtle, or a dolphin, everyone had a bright smile on their face. Shiraishi and Sophia's relationship is also growing stronger, and they are becoming increasingly intimate. However, Sophia seemed to find it difficult to adapt to this warming trend. Deep down, there seemed to be a fear that neither Shiraishi nor Sophia could perceive. As evening approached, the time gradually came. Doraemon pulled out another gadget from his four-dimensional magic pocket. This time something that looked like a rope. It is called a waterproof rope. Water will not get in within the area covered by the waterproof rope. Define an area, place a house inside. And that's your all-purpose tent. It was originally a small, toy-like thing, but once it was inflated, it could grow large enough for a person to use. It has virtually every kind of facility. Sitting at the large table in the middle, Sophia looked around curiously. Doraemon, you're just like the legendary Manesha statue, Manesha. Well, I once heard my grandmother say that when our mermaid race is in danger, the sea god will use the mermaid sword to save us. The mermaid sword. Shiraishi said that he felt like he had heard it somewhere before. Actually, our merfolk ancestors have preserved this sword very well for generations. But now we don't know where it is. It's a real pity. Sophia nodded, her tone expressing regret. After all, the mermaid sword was a treasure of their mermaid race, and now its whereabouts were unknown. Shiraishi frowned slightly. Mermaid sword. Then is there also a set of mermaid armor? Shiraishi, how did you know? Sophia looked at Shiraishi in surprise. I just guessed. Shiraishi waved his hand, indicating that he wasn't just guessing, but rather vaguely recalling some plot details. If his recollection of the plot is correct, the villain in this theatrical version, it seems that he possesses the mermaid armor and then comes to Earth to find the mermaid sword, attempting to collect these two divine artifacts and rule the world. However, that's all Shiraishi can remember. More specific details, such as what they are going to do now, are unclear. I really can't remember those plot points, since they were all details that wouldn't be described in the movie. So it's hard to remember them, according to legend. In addition to the mermaid sword, there is indeed a mermaid armor, Sophia continued. However, the legends surrounding the mermaid armor are much older than those surrounding the mermaid sword. The mermaid sword dates back about 5,000 years, while the mermaid armor is rarely mentioned in records and is much harder to investigate. The legendary sword and the legendary armor are so cool. Fat Tiger clenched his fists, very excited. Zayafu nodded in agreement. How romantic. So, with his friend's help, Doraemon pulled out two gadgets in search of the legendary sword and armor: treasure hunt paper and baking ovens. Doraemon didn't originally intend to look for these things. However, under the reverse psychology of Giant and Sunio, who described it as a raccoon dog in the sea, Doraemon couldn't resist taking out his gadget. Tear off a piece of the treasure hunt paper and place it on top of the baking oven to bake, with Sophia holding it if the mermaid sword truly exists. Then the treasure hunt paper would provide clues. right under everyone's shocked gaze. A line of text appears on the treasure hunt paper, revealing the main storyline when the royal family prays. 6 rays of light converging their wishes will come true. Immediately afterwards, another line of information was provided on the treasure hunt paper. It was just ancient Bluewater star script, which even Sophia couldn't understand. Sophia seemed to remain silent afterwards. Hey Doraemon, I'm hungry. Fat Tiger suddenly touched his belly and said, I'm hungry too, Doraemon. Nobita and Sunio also spoke up. Shizuka didn't say anything, but her stomach was already growling. Seeing that everyone was looking at her, she lowered her head somewhat embarrassed. Haha, don't underestimate the all-purpose tent. Doraemon smiled mysteriously and walked to the all-purpose tent. Giant. What do you want to eat? Just say the word. Of course it's eel rice, a supersized portion. Fat Tiger said without hesitation. Eel rice, let me see. Doraemon manipulated something and pulled out a steaming bowl of eel rice. Wow Doraemon, how amazing, Fat Tiger excitedly took it. Took a bite and found it delicious. How did you do that? Doraemon. Nobita Nobai watched this scene in astonishment. A multi-purpose tent that can absorb microorganisms and then make any kind of food. Doraemon proudly held his head high and said, come on. Tell Mewhat, do you want to eat? Sunio and Shizuka ordered ramen. Nobita ordered a bowl of pork cutlet rice. Shiraishi ordered fried chicken rice and Sophia, not knowing what to eat, also ordered a bowl of fried chicken rice with Shiraishi. It smells so good. After dinner, everyone went to bed one after another. Doraemon had already contacted their families, saying he would take them on a trip for about a day or two, with the reliable Doraemon leading the way. The children's parents generally had no objections. Night, everyone was asleep. Sophia sat on the bed lost in thought. Sophia is young, but that doesn't mean she doesn't understand love and romance. Along the way, Sophia's feelings for Shiraishi continued to grow. But the more they grew, the more doubts she had. Sophia opened the door and took a deep look at the room where Shiraishi was. The next morning, where is Sophia? The group of friends gathered together, but they couldn't find Sophia anywhere. Only Shizuka touched the crown on her head. I was chatting with Sophia just last night. How come she suddenly disappeared? She even chatted with Sophia last night. Sophia even put her own crown on her head. Shiraishi stared silently at the doorway to Sophia's room, frowning without uttering a word. He seemed to be able to sense what Sophia was thinking. But I still can't figure it out. The other kids all seemed a little worried. Sophia's departure without saying goodbye was a real blow to the exploration team. The atmosphere was somewhat heavy. Suppressing his emotions, Shiraishi said, everyone, let's keep going, continue forward. Sophia has already left, why should we continue forward? Zio Fu scratched his head, looking quite puzzled. It's simple, I want to ask Sophia why she left. Shiraishi turned to look at his friends, paused for a moment, and then spoke. At that moment, Shizuka also said, I still need to return Sophia's crown to Sophia. That's true, I also want to know why Sophia suddenly left. Aren't we friends, but how are we going to find Sophia? We have no idea where Sophia went. Nobita Nobai said with some difficulty. It's okay, we have Doraemon, don't we? Shiraishi smiled slightly and pressed Doraemon's head down. This is our Manesha goddess. Oh, don't flatter me, cousin Shiraishi. Doraemon scratched his head sheepishly. In that case, ta-da, the person finder. As he spoke, Doraemon took out a machine that looked somewhat like a lawnmower. With an arrow on it, Shizuka, give me the crowns. Okay. Doraemon placed the crown in front of the arrow and said, we must find Sophia immediately afterward. Amidst everyone's excited gazes, the arrow of the missing person detector began to spin. Let's go to find Sophia. Without the slightest hesitation, the group set off immediately. However, at one point, Shiraishi suddenly stopped. Wait. Danger. Shiraishi's hair stood on end as he stared intently at any potential danger in the vicinity. What danger is there? Fat Tiger said nonchalantly. Cousin Shiraishi, are you missing Sophia so much that you're hallucinating? Zairafu nodded as well. Shiro almost stumbled in the sea. What were these two thinking? You're underestimating the dangers of the sea. Is it dangerous? Nobita scratched his head, it's so bright here. I don't feel any danger at all. What do you mean by bright and sunny? Doraemon retorted. We're already in the deep sea, it's actually very dark. Pitch black. But we have adaptive lighting so it feels like daytime. So it was just a misconception caused by Doraemon's gadgets. The moment Baishi finished speaking, his hair stood on end. Whether it was an illusion or not, a roar came from behind. Immediately afterwards, the nearby seawater suddenly surged violently, and an enormous, ferocious moray eel abruptly appeared from the front. How big is it? It's several tens of meters long. Shiraishi and his companions looked like ants in front of this giant eel. Sunio's face was deathly pale. That's a conger eel. How can it be so big? Isn't this the eel rice bowl that Giant loves to eat? Nobita screamed inappropriately. Giant's face darkened. Shut up, Nobita. Who can eat an eel this big? Stop talking, run. With a loud roar, Shiraishi quickly led everyone to flee. But the eel, perhaps mistaking them for prey, let out a deep roar and gave chase. They're still chasing us. Shiraishi's expression was not good. This eel is ridiculously large. Even he would have a hard time dealing with it. Let alone taking care of Nobita and the others, it's simply impossible. Although moray eels look clumsy, they are actually quite fast swimmers in the sea. And they are about to crush their companions. Spread. Shiraishi roared and shoved Shizuka and Nobita away. Doraemon, Giant, and Sunio swam to the sides on their own. The massive surge of water generated by the moray eel crashing down sent everyone tumbling over. There's no escape, baited up. Shiraishi's mind went blank for a moment. He quickly steadied himself, flicked his tail, and charged forward, slamming his two fists into the eel's body. At his speed, leaving would be absolutely possible. But Doraemon and his friends couldn't do it. Their speed is nowhere near that of the moray eel. Since there is no hope of escape, we might as well fight to the death. Bang, roar. The eel's entire body shuddered violently, and a painful roar rang out as it was forcefully thrown back a distance. Shiraishi was also sent flying by the recoil. All right. Let's fight it to the death, Doraemon, also filled with excitement, shouted and immediately pulled out several air cannons from his four-dimensional magic pocket and handed them to his friends. Knowing the sea, it shouldn't be called an air cannon, but a water pressure cannon. Bew bew bew. Watch me beat this giant monster to a pulp and turn it into a supersized eel rice bowl. Oh, Giant, you're still really thinking about the eel rice bowl. The water cannon kept bombarding the eel. Roar, roar. Roar, the eel writhed in agony and with a flick of its tail, it sent Doraemon flying, crashing into the cliff face and falling straight to the ground. Doraemon, the friends exclaimed in surprise. Shiraishi flicked his tail, transforming into a torrent that instantly swam to Doraemon's vicinity and hugged him. Are you all right, Doraemon? No, it's nothing. Doraemon was feeling a little dizzy, but he shook his head to force himself to wake up, only to suddenly scream, watch out. Shiraishi glanced over and was surprised to find that the eel had opened its mouth wide and was about to bite Shizuka. Shizuka screamed in fright and stood frozen in place. Terrified Shizuka, Giant, Nobita, and the others stared wide-eyed, their eyes blazing with fury, and they all ran towards Shizuka. But there was one person who was faster than them. That's Shiraishi. When Shiraishi saw Shizuka in danger, he immediately rushed to her side, raised his hands high, and braced his legs on the eel's lower teeth. Using all his strength, Shiraishi gritted his teeth, his muscles tense, and a terrifying roar kept seeping out from between his teeth. It got stuck in the eel's mouth, preventing the eel from closing its mouth. Shizuka stared blankly at Shiraishi in front of her. Suddenly, I felt that this scene seemed familiar. Cousin Shiraishi, Doraemon exclaimed in surprise. The friends were stunned when they saw this. Never mind me, quickly take Shizuka away and hide her. Shiraishi's voice was as if each word was being uttered one by one, without the slightest hint of weakness. Good. Doraemon gritted his teeth and rushed, overtaking Shizuka, who was stunned and staring at Shiraishi's back, away and placing her in a crevice in the rocks nearby. At the same time, Giant Sunio and Nobita rushed to the eel's side and bombarded it with their water cannons. Let go of cousin Shiraishi, big guy, take this. The moray eel tried desperately to bite down, but Shiraishi's steel body was like a diamond stuck in its mouth. Impossible to bite through. Now when attacked, the pain causes him to twist his body, while sending Giant and Sunio flying. Shiraishi's foot slipped, and he fell directly into the eel's body. Doraemon, who had just emerged from the crack in the rock to rescue Shiraishi, stared in disbelief at the scene before him. Giant, Sunio, Nobita, and Shizuka were all stunned. They stared blankly at the roaring, powerful eel. Cousin Shiraishi, you despicable B*********. D. In an instant, Nobai burst into tears, screaming bitterly. The cowardly man suddenly burst forth with indescribable courage, gritting his teeth as he charged forward to avenge Shiraishi. Giant, who should have been the most reckless, showed remarkable composure at this moment, letting tears stream down his face as he tightly hugged Nobita, who was trying to rush forward. Don't go, Nobita. Don't go and die. Zio Fu covered his mouth and burst into tears, even though she had been manipulated by Shiraishi before. But that was just kids playing around. He still has a very deep affection for Shiraishi. Now we see Beishi buried in the belly of a fish. I couldn't help but cry. Giant, Sunio, and Nobita are all like that. Not to mention Shizuka, cousin Shiraishi. Doraemon's cheeks turned bright red, and he transformed into an enraged pufferfish, frantically pulling weapons from his four-dimensional magic pocket. I'll kill you. I'll kill you, I'll kill you to avenge my cousin Shiraishi. Doraemon kept shouting and tears kept falling. Beishi thus perished in the belly of a fish. He simply couldn't believe it. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to slaughter you. Doraemon had completely lost his mind, staring fiercely at the sea eel, his hands moving at lightning speed as he pulled out all sorts of extremely powerful weapons. The legendary sword Lightning Bolt. Here you go, Nobita. Shotgun. Here you go, Sunio. And the super gloves. Here you go, Giant. And the final act of revenge, Doraemon, holding two little hands making a peace sign, charged menacingly at the sea eel. Come and hit me. Come and hit me. This item can return 3 times the amount of attacks received from others. In other words, if someone punches you, it's like you've punched yourself 3 times. If someone stabs you, it's like you've stabbed yourself 3 times. Avenge my cousin Shiraishi. The group of friends all shouted at the same time. Sunio, wielding a shock gun, relentlessly attacked the sea eel. Biu as the name suggests. This gun can induce a state of shock in its target within a short period of time. Although it couldn't completely incapacitate the moray eel, the extremely short time it took, coupled with Sunio's furious Gatling gun-like attacks, was enough to give the guy a run for his money. At the same time, Nobita Nobai rushed forward with his famous sword. Dayankumaruan kept slashing at the eel's body. Giant, on the other hand, put on the super gloves and became incredibly strong, punching the eel repeatedly. The eel was being beaten so badly that it kept writhing in pain. Unfortunately, even with all that, they still couldn't completely eliminate the moray eel. Dies. Doraemon had completely lost his mind at this point, and actually pulled out a giant bomb from his 4-dimensional magic pocket, Earth Destruction Bomb. D. No, Doraemon. At that moment, everyone was stunned. At that very moment, the eel suddenly writhed in pain on the ground. The dust on the seabed was constantly stirred up, and in an instant everything became shrouded in mist. Immediately afterwards, PFFT. A sound piercing through flesh and blood rang out. With blood all over his body, Shiraishi suddenly burst through the flesh of the sea eel and emerged from it. Roar! A bloody hole appeared on the eel's body, and it rolled around on the ground like a mudfish because of the injury. It's clear that he's really in pain. Ugh. It stinks so bad. Shiraishi smelled the odor on himself and felt like vomiting. What kind of fart smell is coming from inside this eel? Just know after Shiraishi was swallowed by the eel. It didn't actually cause him any harm, instead. He seized the opportunity and rushed out directly from the most vulnerable part of his body. It was a severe blow to some extent. As Shiraishi thought this to himself, he then noticed that the atmosphere was a bit strange. Doraemon, Nobita Giant and Sunio all stared at him blankly. Nobita Giant and Sunio are all right. Doraemon is carrying a bomb. Holy crap, I think I just heard something. Earth-destroying bombs, no way, Doraemon. Shiraishi's eye twitched slightly. He almost screamed when he saw Doraemon casually throw the earth-destroying bomb on the ground. Are you kidding me, Doraemon? You can't just throw this thing away like that. However, before Shiraishi could say anything, he was surrounded. Cousin Shiraishi, are you all right? Cousin Shiraishi, you're amazing. They managed to break through like that. I knew my cousin Shiraishi would be all right. The children's faces were filled with surprise, and you could even see faint traces of tears. Shiraishi felt a warmth in his heart, knowing that they were all acting this way because of him. Okay, I'm definitely fine. There's nothing wrong with me at all. Baishi comforted him. That guy is still alive. We need to make arrangements for this big guy quickly. Otherwise, it will be even more difficult to deal with later. No problems. The group of friends looked at each other and nodded in unison. Even though Shiraishi is all right now, what just happened still makes his friends want to kill that eel and turn it into a giant eel rice bowl. Go to hell's. Next up, Doraemon, Nobita Giant and Sunio will be there to assist. Shiraishi will be the main attacker. Find the gap in the rigidity. Shiraishi rushed forward immediately. Using his speed and strength, he pierced through the eel in an instant. PFFT. Immediately afterwards, Baishi rushed out 100 meters away, turned around again, and pierced through once more. After repeating this process several times, many holes appeared on the eel's body. It went from being fierce at the beginning to being on its last legs, lying on the ground, its body only occasionally trembling. Right under everyone's noses, the moray eel lost its life forcing at the same time. Some of the instruments on its body fell to the ground and slowly shrank. I knew it even at the bottom of the sea. There couldn't be such a big eel. Sunio stared in amazement at the shrunken eel. Is the stuff that fell off its body what caused it to grow bigger? Maybe someone is raising these monsters on the seabed. Fat Tiger crossed his arms and snorted. If I find out, I'll definitely beat him to death. Shiraishi stared silently at the device, some plot points slowly taking shape in his mind. Mermaids, monster fish. Cousin Shiraishi, that was really dangerous just now. We all thought you were dead. Doraemon patted his chest in lingering fear. Yes, Cousin Shiraishi. The friends gathered around again. Never mind that. Doraemon, please put away your earth destruction bomb first. Shiraishi stared at the earth-destroying bomb that had fallen to the ground, his lips twitching wildly. He didn't know whether to be moved or terrified. Where did Doraemon go, who claimed a few days ago to be a childcare robot and not possess dangerous items like swords? You're going to pull out an earth-destroying bomb with your bare hands. Shiraishi has no doubt that this earth destruction bomb can destroy the earth. His only concern is that if Doraemon is reliable, what if he accidentally touches it and it explodes? Baishi couldn't withstand the power of the planet's explosion. He had only been in the world for a short time and had already gained so many abilities. He didn't want to die so soon. I almost forgot. Doraemon slapped his forehead, awkwardly swam underground, and stuffed the earth destruction bullet back into his four-dimensional magic pocket. Is this okay now? Shiraishi breathed a sigh of relief. Yes, absolutely. The group of friends expressed their concerns about Shiraishi, saying that what had just happened was extremely dangerous. Just then, several fish-shaped submarines sailed in from various places and surrounded the group in the blink of an eye. At the same time, many mermaid soldiers dressed in the same uniform and carrying spears or guns swam in. What's going on? Doraemon and the others watched this scene with puzzlement, but they had a feeling that the newcomers were up to no good. So the group of friends gathered together and watched them warily. At the same time, a small yellow figure, resembling a pufferfish with a spiky hairstyle, swam over. Yes, it is indeed Harry, the captain of the merfolk's guard. Harry walked up to the group, crossed his arms, and scanned them with a scrutinizing and disgusted look. Blue fat pufferfish. Are you the guys Princess Sophia was talking about? Doraemon was once again mistaken for a pufferfish, and he almost rushed up to fight Harry. But Nobita stopped him. Doraemon, don't do this. Don't do this. These mermaids know Sophia, they're our friends. I'm so angry even if she's Sophia's friend. She can't call me a pufferfish. Doraemon, furious, put his hands on his hips. Hey Doraemon. Actually calling you a pufferfish isn't wrong. Because you really look just like one. Fat Tiger couldn't help but laugh out loud. What giant? What are you saying, seeing them making a ruckus? Little Harry frowned. Quiet downs. Although it looks small, its long-standing high position has instilled in it a sense of authority. As soon as he said that, everyone fell silent. HMPH. It seems you really are the people Princess Sophia was talking about. Little Harry snorted. Everyone had a bad feeling. I have a feeling that this mermaid harbors some inexplicable hostility towards them. Nobita was the only one who hadn't reacted yet. He stretched out his hand and said, "What's your name?" "We're Sophia's good friends. My name is Nobita." Snort. Harry snorted again, swam back a short distance, and looked down at everyone. I am now arresting you for kidnapping. What kidnapping? Us? Crime, abduction. Abducted whom? The other children were completely bewildered, not understanding what was going on, and stared blankly at little Harry. Of course it's Her Highness the Princess. Are you kidding me? How could we possibly have kidnapped Sophia? Hearing this, the friends were a little angry. However, little Harry is a predator knight at his command. The fish-shaped ship next to him fired a laser beam, which transformed into a fish-shaped bottle and put Doraemon, Nobita, Giant and Sunio inside. The bottle was very small, and 4 people squeezed together, their faces pressed against it, which was very uncomfortable. It hurts so much. Let us go. You despicable B********D. We took down the giant eel, but we never expected to be ambushed by you. Little Harry looked at them coldly and snorted. Take them back, these presumptuous kidnappers. How ridiculous. Watching them leave, Baishi, who was hiding on the reef, silently followed. He had already sensed something was wrong. These guys clearly didn't come with good intentions. Otherwise, they wouldn't have surrounded everyone so quickly. So when he found an opportunity, he darted to the side and hid. It wasn't that he didn't want his friends to come along, but he had no other choice. Only by staying free could he save them. I'm afraid you'll have to make do for now, Doraemon.